hearing it on me. And I'm just trying to spread your message, you know what I'm saying? But, so I emailed them that today. And I told them I might even get the courage to call in myself one day. Matter of fact, I should check my email and see if they
call in and say what?
Just that I don't agree with everything they say. I love them to death, but it's like I still think there is something that we would consider to be God. You don't have to name it God, but there is some kind of force that science cannot explain. And whatever that is, whatever started everything, call it the Big Bang, then that's fucking God. You know what I'm saying? There is whatever got this whole shit started is what I would amount God to be.
I agree.
But I absolutely agree with them that I don't think that the Bible is 100% true. Like,
I just feel like it's scary because what if that man's is real and you look at that, damn, you was all that shit you said, everything, like, look at the book. This is your big book of fucked up. Is it gonna outweigh the good? But like, I honestly know, even though I've done fucked up shit in my life, I know I'm a good ass person. I'm not intentionally, spiteful to think like people.
They didn't email me back. But I got 2 new subscribers yesterday.
That's what's up. You got faithful people too. Every time you go on, they watch you.
Yeah, D1.
That
Jay
Jennifer
Boozy,
girl.
Yeah, Jennifer, Bacon Bits. My man Shaman 420. Shaman actually bought a painting from me. I did a painting of his son. Yeah, so Jay Boozy, the Exile One Arises, Bacon Bits. Like, them my homies, yo. Yo, what up, guys? Back in the studio on this nice, beautiful ass day. It's nice and warm outside. And I just gotta work on this painting, man. It's like I've been working so much for my regular job lately. I haven't had like all the hours I want to put on this canvas. So every day I try to get up in here for a couple hours and work on this thing. This weekend, I'm gonna really hit it hard though. Yo, D1, just talking about you, bro. Like this weekend, I gotta do something Saturday. But Sunday, I think I might just get up early Sunday and be in the studio like all day. Just force myself to stay up here and put a good 8 hours in on this canvas. Because I feel like I'm getting to that point where I feel like it's taking me too long now. How's your day going, bro? You off work yet? And if you are off work, how was your work day?
And now you want to show my hot ass in that clip.
What was I working on last time? I was working on this part of the pickets. I got most of that done. I really do think I'm gonna load up a bunch of blues. I'll probably get some Prussian blue, some cobalt blue, and some cerulean blue hue, maybe some turquoise and a little bit of white, and start working on his uniform and putting a second coat of paint on that. And then after I do his uniform, I can work my way from this part down and get all in between there. I'll get in between the pickets first, and then I'll come back and do the lines on top of that. All right, that's the game plan for right now. And let's see how much we can get done. I'll probably be in here. Just got settled in. I know that's right, bro.
You mind if I turn off the fan just while I'm smoking?
Yeah. So, I'd say probably be up here for a couple hours. Oh yeah, that's wet.
What's that for? To make it higher up?
Yeah, because I mean I can lift it higher, but
yeah,
the ceiling.
The ceiling, yeah.
So in order to get the painting up, I had to stack this and that shit. That's the only thing about this easel. It's perfect. It's big. It can hold big ass canvases. But my room ain't even big enough for the damn easel, yo. Like the easel. There's a little crawl space up there. I was almost thinking about just cutting a chunk out the fucking ceiling.
Of this?
Yeah, just cut a fucking hole in that shit.
That's the attic up there?
No, this is the attic.
Well, crawl space, like just little.
It's in that closet in the hall. There's just like a little more room up there. Ain't shit up there but wires and insulation though. Yeah, my day was kind of chill, man. A little bit until they made me do some extra shit at work today. And plus, I wasn't feeling good, really, man. My sinuses, my allergies just been killing my sinuses lately. I swear, yo, like, I keep having these fucking pressure headaches, and then my nose gets stuffy. I can't fucking breathe. That shit just annoying, make you feel miserable as shit, yo.
I have to go to the doctor. I was getting a bunch of migraines for like 3 years. I got an MRI done, and they put me on this medicine to try for a year. And I'm not saying that it helped, but like I haven't gotten a migraine since.
Yeah.
They said nothing was wrong with my brain though, and everything was fine. Aww, the broski graduated.
Yeah, I emailed. I emailed the Atheist Experience again today. I read the email. It was just something short. I said, I really enjoy listening to the show. I can't remember how I came across it the first time, but I've been hooked for the past few months. It gives my viewers, I said so much to talk about and discuss. A couple of them have subscribed to the APX YouTube channel and are exposing their family and friends to Matt and the gang. Love the show. Keep up the good work. I might gain the courage to call in myself one day. Peace and love. But, like I said, I really enjoy listening to these guys.
Blood got me slapped already.
Oh, this one should be a good one. The Earth is 6,000 years old, and that's another thing. Like real Christians, like hard-body Christians, really believe that. They really do, and it's like, no. Like we do have science, and then I hate the ones say, "Oh, you can't believe in science," and then Matt hit the one guy with this shit one time. He was like, "Oh, science can't explain everything." I'm like, science can explain a lot. He's like, but not everything. He's like, look, dude, you're talking to me on a TV show using a device to call in, and so everybody can hear your voice, and this is being broadcast across the whole world. That's fucking science, because we figured out how to make this shit work, and it does, and it works the way we want it to 99.999% of the time. Is there the possibility that one day every cell phone and satellite would just disappear and vaporize into nothing? I mean, it's possible. We don't know how it might happen, but until that happens, like, the things that we know as science are grounded in reality, and they work. And we can use science to date the fucking Earth, yeah? Oh, but it's only 6,000 years old. Like, it's really not, bro. The Earth is... Explain dinosaurs, then. Oh, the devil put those bones there to confuse you. I swear to God, somebody told me that shit, yo. Did the devil put dinosaur bones here to confuse everybody? Like, they come up with the weirdest arguments that don't make any fucking sense, yo.
That's why people from my past coming up.
Oh, that's what I made in my iron shop.
That thing, I was just looking at that thing too when I was more close over there.
Try to pick it up.
Is it really heavy?
It's on E, but I need to get to work.
Oh no. Why it feels like that? Is it like a...
I just pay what I want.
What is that thing called? You know how you can make cookies into like different like shapes and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
What is that thing called?
A mold?
Mold.
Yeah.
You just poured it in there, right?
I made.
Years old. If you look at evolution, it's billions, but it's not billions.
Why not?
Why not?
I could give you. I think I can give you fair evidence.
Yeah, I mean,
to show
you can give me something some creationists said, but not people who have actually done a detailed study of the science and made theories and tested them.
It's not about who it comes from. It's about the information in general.
Well, I agree with that, but the point is...
Can I just give a few things that I think it shows that it's about 6,000 years old?
Okay.
Okay.
I have here the index to creationist claims. Let me see if you've got one that isn't on here.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'll just start with a few.
Okay.
Okay, if you were to believe that the Earth is billions of years old, like evolution said.
Okay, so listen, the premise of this caller is he is calling to give evidence that the Earth is only 6,000 years old. And he feels like he has proof, and he has a couple of different things that proves that the Earth isn't billions of years old, but it's only 6,000 years old. Let's hear what he has to say.
And that humans started millions of years ago. According to the increased rates of population, you would have 150,000 people on the Earth per square inch.
Okay.
That's true. That's true.
No, it isn't.
It isn't?
So Noah's flood had like 8 people surviving,
And
right?
if you add...
Okay, do you know when the pyramids were supposedly built?
What's that?
Do you know when the pyramids were supposedly built according to Bishop Ussher's chronology?
Oh, well, they were the old kingdom of Egypt. They were probably, I don't know, maybe 2000 BC.
They were built about 100 years after Noah's flood was supposed to have happened. So that means that 8 people were supposedly going to have generated enough people to populate Egypt that there were all these slaves to build the pyramids. Those 8 guys must have been pretty busy, right?
It's funny you did that.
No,
I was
okay,
gonna
first
ask
off,
if you ever do that, or you just fail all the time.
If they're 6,000 years old, it fits perfectly with...
That's something. Yo, baking beds. Look at this. Yo, that's something else that I've questioned before too. But even the atheists just said it like it's in there. But I don't know. I've never read about the pyramids in the Bible. Like, somebody give me a verse where they mention the pyramids in the Bible, but even the atheist guy on the talk show was like, oh, the pyramids were supposedly built like 100 years after the flood. I'm gonna have to look into that, pyramids in the Bible. Toes out. It's hot today, girl.
Well, I don't want my feet to be on the floor. I don't have slippers, guys.
I'm saying, she talking about my toes.
Oh.
No, she always asks what kind of socks I'm wearing.
Oh.
I got-
Because you got cool, funky socks.
I know, right? So I gotta get some more cool socks though. But yeah, like today, we got the dogs out. But yeah, have you guys ever heard of the pyramids in the Bible? Because I put forth that question on on Facebook like a couple of weeks ago, and it spawned like yo, 2 of my homies, bro, they went in on it. One of them a Christian and one of them not, yo. And all us went to school together, and these motherfuckers was going in on each other like, bro, if you read the facts, da 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 da. And then, man, my other homie's like, yo, it says it in the Bible they was making mud bricks and this and that. And I was like, even I jumped in when he said that shit. I was like, wait a minute. The pyramid isn't made out of mud bricks though. Like, the pyramid is made out of massive fucking stones. And then I Google some pictures of the pyramids and people standing on the stones of the pyramid. Like, you can stand on that shit. It's a big ass fucking, a big block. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit ain't made out of no mud bricks. Like, he was like, oh, they mentioned Moses' brother or somebody's brother making mud bricks, and the slaves were making bricks out of mud and hay, or like, yeah, but they didn't use that to build the pyramids. Me neither. Oh, my feet kind of ugly a little bit. Anyway, let's see what this
Who
gives.
said you got ugly feet?
No, she said as long as they not ugly.
You got cute feet.
Those 8 guys must have been pretty busy, right? People to populate.
2000 BC.
The pyramids were supposedly built according to Bishop Ussher's chronology.
Oh, well, they were the old kingdom of Egypt. They were probably, I don't know, maybe 2000 BC.
They were built about 100 years after Noah's flood was supposed to have happened. So that means that 8 people were supposedly going to have generated enough people to populate Egypt that there were all these slaves to build the pyramids. Those 8 guys must have been pretty busy, right?
No, okay, first off, if they're 6,000 years old, it fits perfectly with 6 billion people.
It doesn't fit perfectly.
Yeah, because with 150 years, the population doubles, and if you keep that average
The population
No, it
doesn't like consistently, reliably double every 150
Okay, but
years.
if you
What happens is that people survive at variable rates. Sometimes the population is flat because there's a lot of people dying off.
Okay, was it flat for 3 million years?
Yes.
Evolution?
Actually, the rate of population
On
growth,
an exponential scale.
yeah,
yes,
the
it's
rate of
pretty
population growth was very, very
flat.
small
Can't read that much.
for
sorry.
a long period of time. So,
Oh, if you want to believe 3 million years, be my guest, but I don't think that's very...
and let's be clear, it's not evolution that claims the Earth is 4.5 billion years roughly.
That's fine, but...
It's
I just
actually
think
geology.
Geology, well, if you don't want to believe in geologic column, I mean, that's not reliable at all.
Yeah, actually it is.
You believe that, so you believe that those layers grew over millions of years?
No, they didn't grow over millions of years.
The sediment added over millions of years.
I believe what the geologists claim happened.
Is that what you... Well,
So what you're telling us is that the Bible is reliable as long as we're willing to dismiss all of science in order to get there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying...
I mean, you don't seem to be particularly interested in what, I mean, what you're basically saying is what one person says is pretty much as good as what another person says. It doesn't matter how much study they've done. It doesn't matter how much the base science supports them. If it disagrees with the Bible, then it's got to be wrong by default.
I think if you show that the Earth is 6,000 years old, like the Bible would indicate, I think that shows that it's accurate.
Okay, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck.
I have more claims.
All right.
Well, go ahead.
Okay.
Next.
So this is I don't know. We're gonna drop from right here because this dude is saying the Bible's 6,000 years old. The Bible is 6,000 years old, and if you can make science understand that, then everything would correlate better because we know that the Earth is only 6,000 years old.
Yes, sir. Elijah Muhammad, what about him?
He was racist. I used to listen to him in New York on the radio on Sunday afternoons. He's racist.
Okay. Well, let me explain.
He said that we were created by evil scientists.
Let me explain. The question from the gentleman in the front is, wasn't Elijah Muhammad indeed a racist? The gentleman says that he used to listen to him on the radio in North America, I believe, in New York, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he says, referred to white people as blue-eyed devils, and that they were created by a mad scientist in a laboratory or something like this. Okay, first of all, let me say You know, when you say racist, you've really got to understand, first and foremost, look, when you have not a prefix, when you have a suffix to a word, I like the fact that you're wearing your bow tie. It means that you're an intelligent man, so you will understand what I'm saying. When you have a suffix, when you have an ist at the end of the word, it is something that is informing you about the expertise or the quality or the skill involved in that particular thing. For instance, a pianist, a violinist, a scientist, a racist. Okay, why do you have this suffix? It is because when one is proficient in the violin, one becomes a violinist. When one is proficient in science, one becomes a scientist. When one loves his race, one is a racist. However, it does not necessarily mean it has to be in a negative way. For instance, let me explain, please. Let me explain. When Elijah Muhammad was born in 1897, racism was in the world. That's right. That's right. Right? You agree with me? Okay, so don't talk about Elijah like he invented racism. Racism was in the world. The slave master came for us in 1555, 400 years ago, and we can take it back beyond that. However, the point I'm making is this. Now, with Elijah, you got to understand now that he was born into a world where he was witnessing black men being lynched. He grew up in that era where black men were hung for no reason, where we were subject to all manner of disgusting treatment and disgusting laws. Ku Klux Klan killing us, burning us at the stake for no reason other than the fact that we were black people. Now, when Elijah Muhammad, look, the Jews, Adolf Hitler engineered a program where he caused 6 million Jews to be killed in gas chambers during the Second World War. Go to any self-respecting Jew today and ask them, what is Adolf Hitler? And they will tell you he was a devil. What is a devil? The word devil is a term that means, the word devil is a term that means one who devalues. A devaluer. Those Jewish lives were valuable in the eyes of God. But here is a man that comes along now and takes away the value of human beings and destroys them as a human reality. That is the act of a devil. This book, Quran, talks about the devils and talks about people, human beings who are devils in the manifest evil that they do. Now, that was over 4 years that Hitler was doing this devilishment. We can count back 400 years of the most brutal treatment. Look, they took my name, my language, my culture. They killed my mother, my father, denied me religion, disallowed me to read or write for over 300 years. Reduced me to the level of an animal where they branded me on my chest, branded me on my buttocks with a branding iron. And they called me 3/5 of a human being in the American Constitution. Is that the act of a human being or the act of a devil? It's for you, you answer. We're just calling white people names. No! We're just going on the basis of what we have experienced. And so Elijah Muhammad was not a racist in the negative, but he was a racist, yes, in that he at last loved himself and loved his people. Black people were taught to hate ourselves. That's right. Even to this day, many of my people.
Hey, what's up, MB? Now this is a long roundabout way of showing someone else's viewpoint on the theory that the Earth is only 6,000 years old. So now we're listening to Leo Muhammad, and we're gonna go back to that atheist experience video clip where the guy is trying to prove to them that the earth is only 6,000 years old.
People suffer from self-hatred, and you will see us trying to change our skin color. When I was born in the 50s, in Jamaica, they would take, like my nose, the mothers would sometimes take the nose and try to squash it.
That's right.
To make it straighter, because they didn't like this nose, because it was too, what they call negroid. And they would try and squash it, because they've been so conditioned to hate self that they felt that the baby was ugly if it had thick lips and broad nose and black skin. And so this is in order to counterbalance that degree of self-hatred, there had to be a teaching given by Elijah to black people that would allow us to fall in love once again with ourselves.
That's right.
To have self-respect and to identify that one who was primarily responsible for our destruction. And so I say to you, I understand. Now, just to address the point that you made about the mad scientist. We hear this all the time, but at no point did we say the scientist was mad.
That's right.
That's the only thing I wanted to correct you on. Everything else is correct. Yes, the Caucasian was created or made via a process of genetic engineering.
That's right.
This is the history that we have been. Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. Huh? What's an older group? The Caucasian? No, sir. No. Okay, let's deal with it. Yes, I will. Thank you very much. Let's deal with this. See, because look, I know you're a wise man, and so you must understand that I'm a baby in wisdom, but I'm not a fool. And he's saying here today that the Caucasian is in fact the oldest group on the planet. I beg to differ. Look, one of the most famous anthropologists is Professor Leakey. And when Professor Leakey went in search of the origin of human beings and human species, he didn't stop very long in Europe. He went to Africa. And the oldest bones and the oldest human beings to this day that you call Zinjanthropus, using the Latin meaning Zin and Xanthropus, meaning a black man, that oldest man, they say, is millions of years old. You went back and found one even older than that. You called her Lucy, a black woman.
Go ahead.
And every sensible historian, anthropologist today agrees that the black man is the father of human beings. Even your geneticist, Mr. Mendel.
Go ahead.
You have Mendel's law.
Go ahead.
Mendel says that light eyes are recessive. Light skin is recessive. You can take the recessive, the dark skin is dominant, the dark eyes are dominant. You can take the recessive from the dominant, but you can't get the dominant from the recessive. This is Mendel's law. And so all of your scientists have proved that you can't look. Black is not even a color.
That's right. Teach.
Black is the mother and father of all colors.
Teach.
That's why the scripture says, in the beginning was blackness. And if you want a baby, even if the woman is a white woman, the baby has to come out of the triple darkness of her womb. And this is the origin of all life. Within the black, you have the whole color spectrum. But in white, two white people laying down together, they can only produce white. But two black people in darkest Africa can lay down together and produce albino with blonde hair and blue eyes.
That's right. Teach, Muhammad.
This happens all the time. And so we need to really get these facts correct today and understand that as gray as your hair is, you are listening to your father today.
Teach, Muhammad.
This is daddy talking.
Teach.
And we mustn't turn. No, this is true.
Oh, that wasn't the whole clip. Yo, in the second part, he gets to, he started breaking down Mendel's law. Where's the second part to this? Because he brings up the age of the earth as well, or something pertaining to the age of the earth. I can't find the other half of the video. I think they took that offline.
Tonight, Front Page Challenge welcomes the outspoken...
Yes, sir. To it. And the white man, you just came yesterday, and you are original from Ab.
I think this might be the second part.
Black people, yes, yes, yes. Basic history. Let me explain. No, they are today. They weren't there historically. But let me explain. Look. You're an Englishman. In the English school curriculum, they teach that the English, the Brits were barbarians. They were running around, beating each other in the head and doing all kinds of barbaric things. They were very uncivilized people. But some people came to teach them how to bathe and how to make roads and things like this. These people they identify as the Romans because there was a great Roman Empire. We agree. Then you go and study the Romans and find out where the Romans say they got their civilization from. They say they got it from the Greeks. So you say, oh, wonderful, Athenia and the Hellenistic period. So then you go and study the Greeks. Pythagoras and the boys. And when you study the Greeks, they say they got all of their civilization from Egypt. Go ahead. Where is Egypt? Africa. Black people. Yes. And today we're in denial about basic reality. That's right. And so I'm saying to you that it's really just important to understand that as Caucasian people, all of those, look, when Napoleon arrived in Egypt, he saw the great statue of Ramesses. That's right. He saw the great edifices of the Sphinx and all of this. You know what Napoleon did? When Napoleon saw the nose that looked like my nose, he was so upset because all of these great statues, they got a nose like mine. And you don't have a nose like mine if you are a Caucasian. You only have a nose like mine if you're a black man. And these were black men. Huge statues that scared the life out of Napoleon. And so he told his soldiers, turn the cannons on these statues and blow the noses off. Because they were trying to hide the identity of the builders of the great Sphinx. Go there today. That's right. And you will see that they're black people. That's right. Egypt, the word Egypt means the land of the blacks. Kemet. The word Kemet. Of course, very few are dark today because of migration and the fact that black people have been pushed out and destroyed over the period of time that you have been here. This is why the white man, look, this is why, look, do you know that we were circumnavigating the entire planet thousands and thousands of years ago? But only 500 years ago, Caucasian people thought the world was flat. You thought that if you sailed too far out into the sea, you'd fall off the edge. But black people had already circumnavigated the entire globe. And so, we, as black people, you came into the Caribbean, If you read Columbus's log, he said he found paradise and a people who took gold for granted. We use gold for little artifacts, but it's no big deal to us. When the white man saw gold, he went mad. He called it a gold rush, and he started to kill people for a metallic object. The white man, he came into what he called a new world. And so all of a sudden you started to name things. So that's why you call it America, based on, what was his name? Amerigo Vespucci, a Caucasian. That's why you call it Africa, based on the European explorer called Africanus. You went into America, you called it New York.
That's right.
Because it was new to you.
New England.
You call it New England.
Right.
You call it New Zealand. You call it Newfoundland. Because it was new to you. But to us, we were already there. That's why we're called aboriginals. Ab, meaning abstracted from the Father. From God himself. Original, meaning the first. But you won't find Caucasian people calling themselves aboriginal anywhere on the planet. Because you're the new man, Paul Newman. You're a brand new man to the planet. And I say again, because I know you think we're joking, and we don't back up from this one iota. We made you. We made you through a process of genetic engineering. 6,000 years ago, from one blood came all human beings. Made you through a process of genetic engineering. 6,000 years ago, from.
All right, he hit that mark. Now I told you it was going to come all the way back to the other conversations on the Atheist channel where the guy says, no, the earth is only 6,000 years old, and the Bible can prove it. The earth is only 6,000 years old. And
one blood made you to the planet. And I say again, because I know you think we're joking, and we don't back up from this one iota. We made you. We made you through a process of genetic engineering. 6,000 years ago, from.
Maybe the Caucasian can't trace himself back farther than 6,000 years. And that's why they want that to be the starting point. Because we know the earth is way older, and we know the modern human came out of Africa with dark skin. And so I don't see how religions still try to refute that and say, oh no, Adam and Eve were white people, and then Cain was cursed with the mark and turned black, and then Noah made one of his ham was black. And it's like you said, man, white people can't make black people. Like, the dark color skin was here first for fucking at least 200,000 years. But you're going to say the earth is only 6,000 years old? Why is that? Because you can't trace yourself back further than 6,000 years. Now Leo Muhammad in those Muslims say that they made it from the genetic. I don't really know about that, but I understand the story. I forgot the scientist's name who they say took the two lighter germs and kept breeding them over and over and over until they created like a white person. And for what reason? Like, even the reasons behind it are kind of weird and silly. But there's so many different theories of why, like, some people think the earth is only 6,000 years old.
This is not insulting language. This is science.
Yeah, you didn't know Lucy? They used for crime labs and stuff. And rebuilt their faces like, oh, this is a dark skinned phenotype. And then even when they in England, they have the oldest skeleton they found up there. They call it Cheddar Man. And then, like, for years, Cheddar Man was pale skin with blue eyes, and somebody said, man, let me do this over again. And they said whoever did it the first time just fudged everything and just like, oh, I can't make it look like that. But when they redid Cheddar Man from England, it's like a black dude. It's like, wait a minute. And then you know about Papua New Guinea and New Zealand and what's that island? That chain of islands where the dude who plays Aquaman, where he from? Like all those northern European areas up there were populated with dark skinned people to start with too. And then for some reason, like you say, like this religion, this especially this Christianity thing, saying, oh, the world is only 6,000 years old. No.
Found within ourselves a contrary nature. And so we engineered this from ourselves, and it was produced as a Caucasian human being. And the first one of you that came on the planet was just 6,600 years ago. What was the point that you mentioned? Humus. Look at this. Even the word human. You've heard the term of a darker hue. Human, meaning a dark man, human, a man of color. That's why the topsoil of the earth is called humus. It is the dark organic material that gives life to the earth. Whenever you take away the dark organic material or you denature it, you're left with white granulated sand. Desert. You want to see those of us who think that white something to glorify in? No. Do you know that there's no such thing as a white mice found in nature? You know that all white mice were manufactured because they are weak, and that's the only kind of mice that they can really do laboratory experimentation on. And so they have produced them through genetic engineering. A white rabbit, you will never find a white rabbit running in nature. That was put there from a laboratory. And so you got to understand that white intrinsically is the weaker side of black. White is not the strength. White is in fact the weak aspect. And so when you want real flour, you go and get yourself some whole grain flour. You gotta go and get whole meal. It's gotta have the whole meal in it. It's called brown flour. And that's the one that wise people eat. You don't eat this, but then you make the white flour, which you've totally denatured, and you call it mighty white. When you look at the great white shark, it's not white. You're so desperate to have white things that are great that you call it a great white. You call it the great white whale. It's not a white whale. It's not white. It's black or grey, but it's not white. You can't get a heavyweight champion, so you're looking for a great white hope. You try and turn Frank Bruno into a white man in desperation. This is real. I'm saying it's a psychological thing with white people where you want to find your place. And your scientists and your historians, they spend so much time asking the question, where do we come from? Because they are puzzled as to your origin. They ask the question, why do we kill the way we do? Because there's a different nature. You have a different nature to the rest of the members of the human family. Look at the Chinese. Look at the Asians. Look at the black people. All of us got dark eyes. All of us got black hair. The only one on the planet who's got ginger hair, blonde hair, brown hair, grey hair, brunette. You see, you gotta understand pedigree, and you gotta understand mongrelization. I'm telling you the truth. Because when you got a dog and it's all spotted and all different colors, you call it a mongrel. But when you see a pedigree, it is uniformed. And it has a consistency to it. And the white man, you just came yesterday. And you are a mixture of us. You are the colored man. You are the one that's gone around the world making everything based on color. You were the one who went into Australia. You were the one who went into South Africa. You were the one who went into Asia and classified people and things based on color. That's why you call one of us octoroon, another one quadroon, another one half-caste, another one mulatto. I mean, these are classifications from you, not from us. We never saw people based on their color. We saw people as human beings. But the white man is the one who came along and made all of these classifications. So that's why this man, Yaqub, he wasn't a madman. He wasn't a mad scientist. He was a good scientist, and he just wanted to see if he could bring out from the black man the other side of the black man, the negative side of him, and make it live. And he was successful. After 600 years of grafting, he produced a Caucasian. And the Caucasian person is a person who is anti-nature. That's why when the sun comes out, I'm energized. Me and the sun, we got a relationship. I love the sun. I don't need no sunscreen. I don't get cancer from the sun. Me and the sun have got a good relationship. I love it and it loves me. But white people, you got to put sunblock on. You got to hide from the sun, because now you might get a little melanoma. Part of me on you, that means your death. Why would the life giver, which is the sun, be against your very life? Why is it that instead of harmonizing with the planet, you're forever trying to fight against nature? Why is it that when I come out of my mother's womb as a baby, I've got natural rhythm? But white people, for you to learn to dance, you got to write it out, paint the steps on the floor. My women, they walk with a great big house on their head in Africa and in the Caribbean by nature. Perfect balance, perfect poise. Nobody has to teach them. But the white woman, when she is coming from the aristocracy and she's going through finishing school, she has to have a little book placed on her head to teach her how to walk properly. Because it's not natural to you, but it's natural to us. It is natural to the black people. It comes out of us like a web comes out of a spider.
But it's weird how they think about the time frame as well. Like, there are different opinions in the actual time frame of human civilization, how human civilization got started, and who were the founders of it. And that's the only thing about the Caucasians. They swear down like they started everything. They were here first. They were the first people. They came up with astronomy, medicine, engineering, construction, and it's like, I don't think so. I don't think so. And absolutely nothing against white people. I am not racist. It's just like when you research like history, the mainstream European history just doesn't really hold up. Now, are they in charge of science? Yes. Are they're in charge of the European is almost in charge of every major interaction of human life right now in this point in history. And that's why they can write the history the way they want to. And even with the Bible, it does have some historical accurate parts to it, but then over generations, like, people have manipulated the story and changed it and left a lot out and reworded it and killed people if they didn't believe it. And it's like, today, 2,000 years later, you want me to still believe these crazy mythological stories and characters and believe that the earth is only 6,000 years old? Why do you think that? Is it because you only came here 6,000 years ago? Is that why you're going to keep fighting for that? Because you can't trace your own history past 6,000 years. And because everything that goes further past that, it goes back to just all black people. And that was one of my main arguments with somebody too, was like, somebody was talking about the white race is superior, like the real hardcore racist. And I'm like, but bro, like, you get skin cancer and sunburn, like, that shouldn't be natural. Like, what other animals do that other than like sea lions or some shit? That I think there are some like half semi-aquatic animals that can get sunburn, but for the most part it's weird. Like you said, the energy source for this planet, the life giver for everything we know, it like is against you. And that's just something to think about, even for white people to think about. Like, why is that? Like, melanin is good. Melanin protects you from ultraviolet radiation. It comes from the sun. It's a plus. Having dark skin is a plus. But you want to make it so negative to be a dark person, and that's not true. Like, the darker you are, the healthier your skin is, the longer your skin is going to resist liver warts and sunspots and wrinkling and all of that shit, because you have a high level of melanin in your skin, which comes from your DNA. Your genetic code is closer to the original people. The darker you are, your code is programmed like that to make melanin. I wonder who got this rare footage. I've never seen this before. I don't think that's even Sentinel Island.
Photographs do not grow on these islands, but they are valued by the Sentinel.
No, that wasn't gonna look up something else. Commercial?
The universe, the galaxies have their spiral shape. Can we agree on that? I think.
Disagrees with the Bible, then it's got to be wrong by default.
I think if you show that the Earth is 6,000 years old, like the Bible would indicate, I think that show that it's accurate.
Okay, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck.
I have more claims.
All right.
Well, go ahead.
Okay.
Next.
The universe, the galaxies have their spiral shape. Can we agree on that?
Hang on, I
Some
got
of it,
galaxy
yeah.
spiral right here. That's CE 380.
And if the universe is over 10,000 years old, they wouldn't have those spiral tails.
Spiral arms
Because
are density waves, which, like sound and air, travel through the galaxy's disk, causing a piling up of stars and gas at the crest of the waves. In some galaxies, the central bulge reflects the wave, giving rise to a giant standing spiral wave with a uniform rotation in a lifetime of about 1 or 2 billion years. The causes of the density waves are still not known, but there are many possibilities. Tidal effects from a neighboring galaxy probably cause some of them. The spiral pattern is energetically favorable. Spiral configurations develop spontaneously in computer simulations based on gravitational dynamics. I mean, this stuff you're saying is not like news to scientists in general. These aren't things that a bunch of, that a bunch of biblical scholars came up with and
no, but there's a bunch of, but there's, you act like there's only scientists that, the scientists that we have now, none of them are Christians.
I'm not saying none of them are Christians.
Some of them are Christians, and they disagree with what you say.
Right. I mean, the Christians that study this stuff in depth generally don't stay like young Earth creationists. Some of them are old Earth creationists, but I mean, there is no real scientific support for the idea that the Earth is young. I mean,
yeah.
No.
No, there actually isn't.
Really?
Okay. Okay, you're familiar with carbon dating at all?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay. It can only.
If I'm going to change things, I'm going to need allies. Allies with power.
Maybe measured up to
accurate to a limited amount of time in the past, yes. There are other methods of radiometric dating that are accurate to longer periods.
But in the lowest layers of the geologic column, why can we still date it at carbon dating, period?
Because that's a misapplication. People are taking things which are older than carbon dating is good for, and misapplying it and coming up with the numbers that they see and pretending that this is a big disaster for science.
You don't understand. If you can still measure carbon in it, and then that means that it's less than billions of years old. It can only be maximum 80,000.
There's this thing called a half-life. The carbon never completely disappears.
But they can't measure that for 4 or 5 half-lives.
You understand that there's different forms of carbon, right?
Yeah, I know they date things, potassium, argon, radiometric, etc., but none of those work either.
Yeah, they actually do. And you know the cool thing about these things is that when you start dating things with the appropriate radiometric tool, they all converge on the same answer. And when you have multiple lines of evidence converging on the same answer, then proposing another absurdly out-of-range answer is just ridiculous.
Absurdly out-of-range answer?
Yeah, like 6,000 years.
That's...
What? All the country games? Bruh, last night I almost looked on PS Plus to see what free games we get for June. As soon as I get out of here, I'm definitely going to go put those in the library.
Okay, here's some dates for radiometric.
Okay.
Let's see. This is Mount Etna. The rock they use is basalt. The date known was 21,000 years. It measured 25 million. I wouldn't say that's accurate.
Well, where are you getting this?
That you could use that as a source right there, but
I'm sorry.
Where are you getting
what?
Mount Etna?
Can you spell that?
Mount Etna.
Can you spell that?
E-T-N-A. Mount E-T-N-A.
Okay.
Hey, what about it?
The date they've measured with radiometric dating on basalt rock.
Who did the measurement?
What's that?
Who did the measurement?
I just have the dates. I could find that, but I don't have it on me right now.
Okay, so
it was measured yet.
Who's reporting this?
I'm sure I can tell you that, but I'm sure if you look that up, that's there because that's the source. But I got that from John Morris.
Okay.
He's a creationist.
Who's a young Earth creationist? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and if you want, I have a few more.
Well, I mean, why would we be interested in rehashing creationist claims over and over again?
So why would you believe that dating if it's off by 25 million years? Why would you believe it?
The question is, you've got creationists who are going out and using inappropriate dating techniques.
No, how do you know this? How can you assume it's inappropriate?
Because to my knowledge,
where are the published papers, the mainstream peer-reviewed scientific papers that say that this is a serious flaw in the carbon in the radiometric dating?
Well, you can check him up. He cites everything he shows.
Yeah, I know.
Things, but there's a difference. I'm sorry.
No,
stepping on you.
No, John Morris. I mean, he's been exposed as basically a guy who really doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to radiometric dating. He makes a lot of claims. He can't back it up. He doesn't have the credentials. If he had the credentials, he'd be published in mainstream publications. And believe me, if he found a flaw in radiometric dating that caused dating, no.
Okay.
If he found a flaw in radiometric dating that was this significant, he would be famous for it.
And not among creationists circles.
Exactly.
I mean, actually, among scientists.
So my question is, why are you citing a guy who does not have the credentials to actually be regarded as any kind of authority in this area?
But that doesn't mean those dates are wrong.
Yeah, actually it does.
Have a credential. It does. You can prove that those dates are wrong.
No. It's not because he lacks his credentials. It's because he's wrong.
You know that date off the top of your head?
Do I know what off the top of my head?
It
No.
comes back full circle to the first thing you asked, which is why not believe in a God? And I said that the default is to be skeptical of stuff until there's evidence provided that a thing is true. We don't. If we got some guy off the street who says that my primary goal is to advance biblical truth, and then he makes a bunch of claims which run counter to the prevailing science. No, I don't have the information right now to say whether he's wrong. I'm just saying that you need that. The burden of proof is on his side. He needs to bring the evidence and get it peer reviewed so that people who are qualified, which is not like you, me, and Jen, but people who actually are able to evaluate the scientific evidence with a background in studying this stuff, can accept or reject it. And the fact that it's not in peer-reviewed scientific journals is a major issue that means that we don't have to bother worrying about it that much.
Still, dating or not, it still doesn't matter, because when God made everything, He made it with age.
How do you know?
Okay, take Adam and Eve. They weren't babies, were they?
I don't believe that Adam and Eve exist, right?
Can you hear my point out for a second?
No, you're saying that this is something that could have happened. I understand the Adam and Eve argument. I'm saying, how do you know it did happen that way?
Well, I believe the biblical creation.
All right, so in the end, we're not talking about arguments that prove that God exists. We're not talking about evidence. We're talking about accepting your beliefs as they are.
No, okay, here's my number one evidence that God exists.
Okay.
I believe that.
I believe.
And I can give you.
This is going to have to be the last one because we got to move on to other callers.
Okay, but I believe that the universe is so accurately designed, you can't deny a creator.
We've already been over that one.
We just talked about that.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Anyway, Kenny in Elk Grove, how are you?
Hi, Matt. First, the only time I got to talk to you was way back on episode 721, and you and the K show.
What's that?
You're cutting out.
Oh, I'm sorry. We had a pretty nice. Let me get off my. Okay, is this better?
So far.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm in my home office. Last time we had a bit of a problem with this.
Okay.
Oh, you're fine now.
Okay, good. Anyway, Beth was on your program. You guys were engaged, and I didn't know that's who that was, and I wasn't watching this on my screen, so I want to congratulate you on your marriage. It's a bit of a late congratulations, but I think that's great.
Thanks. You want to say thanks, honey? She's nodding and waving.
She's waving. I'm doing her crocheting.
Anyway, you and I discussed the authorship of the Gospels. We had a bit of a tizzy, and you hung up on me, and I hadn't been able to get you on the phone since.
Okay, well, you got me today. I won't promise that I won't hang up.
I'm changing the subject today. I want to talk about science.
Okay. So why would... all right, go ahead. I'm always curious when people call in to talk about science, because you do realize this is a public access TV show, and neither one of us are actually scientists, so it's kind of...
You guys do talk about creation, evolution, controversy a lot.
Well, only one of those two is science, but yes, we do talk about it.
Well,
anyway, what's your question?
Okay, well, basically, there's a scientist named Paul Ramdor, German scientist, R-A-M-D-O-H-R. And he was the chief mineralogist at the University of Heidelberg in Germany and head of the petrology department there.
Okay.
And he wrote the standard international work on the microscopic study of minerals called the ore minerals and their intergrowths. And he wrote this paper on radioactive fracturing. And it was later reviewed by Bob Gentry because he identified radioactive minerals being in the rock due to radio halos, and so he wanted Bob Gentry to look at his samples and read his paper and give his opinion. And so I talked to Bob Gentry on the phone in the 1990s when I was debating creation and evolution on the Prodigy Online service. I'm one of the reasons why they closed that service down, because of all the extensive writing we did on the bulletin boards there.
Well, that's a good feather in your cap.
The atheist evolutionists, we pretty much closed it down.
Oh, you did, huh?
Yeah. We wrote so much that they couldn't handle it, and they had to shut down.
Yeah, bandwidth was kind of a thing back then.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, this paper he wrote was put in English by Oak Ridge National Lab in 1965. And his specialty is microscopic studies, and he noticed this fracturing no one was commenting on because it's kind of odd. When radioactive elements decay in a rock, it exerts an internal pressure that causes fracturing on the inside. When the mineral reaches the point of expansion, it can handle it more. And where they expand, by prediction, is at the grain boundary and the let's see what we call that, grain boundary and the cohesion.
Is this the C decay argument? Or a different?
No,
okay.
this is
No. That's speed of light. I'm sorry. Okay. Keep going.
I've heard of this halo stuff before, but I'm trying to figure out what you're getting to, and can we get to it quicker?
Okay. Well, they predicted that that's where the fracturing could be, is the grain boundary cohesion minimums. That's not where we find it. Instead, we find random isotropic fracture indicative of accelerated pressure due to accelerated decay. So this is a fingerprint that these rocks are remnant of accelerated radioactive decay. The minerals, isotopes we're talking about in the minerals are thorium-232, uranium-238.
Yeah, okay, so what conclusion do you think all this supports?
Well, things aren't as old as radioactive decay indicates because it was accelerated fast.
Okay, and why do you think? Why do you think that that's the case?
Because
I mean, because you could
interpretation of Paul Randor.
Okay.
Yes.
And there isn't any alternative.
Why do you think that the scientific community doesn't agree with you?
The scientific community hasn't given an opinion in 50 years on this. They don't have an alternative.
Well, I mean,
think so?
Radiometric dating isn't tied to just one type of decay. There's a number of them, and they're also tested and confirmed by things other than radiometric dating. So there's this interdisciplinary process that confirms the reliability, which none of it's 100% reliable, but confirms the reliability of these things. And so I don't know, if this guy produced a paper that shows this is all unreliable, why hasn't this changed anything about the way we do science?
Well, he wanted the same thing with this paper because he reviewed prior literature that had the same photograph, same phenomenon. Mm-hmm. And they didn't answer his paper after he wrote it.
Well, have you spoken to geologists, physicists, other people in the proper scientific disciplines? Have you asked them these questions? I mean, why are you calling an atheist program? I mean, I understand it's an interesting, it's a topic that you think we'd be interested in, but again, our position is going to be, whatever it is that Paul Randor has written and whatever conclusions he's reached, they do not appear to be conclusions that the scientific consensus, that the working professionals in the field, tend to agree with on the whole. And scientists can make mistakes. They can papers, even peer-reviewed papers, can be incorrect. And the best that you could say, I would think, about Randor's conclusions would be that if they led to new approaches to this field of study. For example, if they, if they added something meaningfully to either the the field of geology, or if they opened up new paths of inquiry that led to, if they had if what he wrote had predictive power, like if his conclusions in his paper led to accurate predictions that other scientists could make in terms of what you would or would not be likely to find, then that would be one thing. But that I know of, again, being layman, his conclusions don't seem to be the ones that are held by scientific consensus.
More than that, I mean, they haven't demonstrated any predictive power such that they would be adopted. But even more than that, let's assume that you're completely right and that radiometric dating is inaccurate, which would be about the most we could say if that conclusion was correct, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I do
Sure. Kenny, that was a yes/no, so I could ask this. If all we could really say is that it's unreliable, we haven't done anything, not one thing, to demonstrate that the dates are wrong or that your proposed dates are right. At most, you've just demonstrated that you've got an unreliable tape measure.
Well, to answer the question that was later asked by Martin sitting next to you there, James Fingebaum, University of Chicago physicist, doing a PhD dissertation on the hydrogen atom. This was given to him on the Prodigy Online service as part of my debate.
You're talking about a scientific paper from 60 years ago and an online discussion on a service that hasn't been active in 20. So
we're not exactly at the cutting edge.
I don't know exactly what you're proposing or how you're what it is that you think you can demonstrate.
Well, these rocks are on every continent of the planet.
Yeah, but I mean,
and obviously we had a accelerated radioactive decay event. I mean, how do you measure the accelerated radioactive decay of the potassium argon melt?
I just explained to you that at most what you're saying is that we do not have a reliable tape measure, and yet somehow you think that you are able to accurately measure absent a reliable tape measure. Because you're Kenny, because you're a young Earth creationist, correct?
Sure.
And so despite the fact that young Earth creationism is, I mean it's even disregarded by some of the most ardent fundamentalists as nonsense that doesn't stand up to. You're justified in your young Earth position because you found a paper that hasn't gained any scientific traction that seems to imply that some radiometric dating may not be accurate. And this is sufficient to justify young Earth creationism?
This is the kind of thing that unfortunately we see coming from the creationist camp quite a lot, which is this cherry picking of data. You'll find a paper or a discussion or one particular scientist who published or wrote or said something sometimes decades in the past, as Randor has done, and you'll say, here, this is it, and you'll wave that around as being the thing that settles the issue, when it's not. It's cherry picking of data, and there is I think that if you look around and find, instead of finding that the scientific consensus has no alternatives to Randor's conclusions or no other explanations for things, you may very well find that stuff is out there. If you weren't just laser focused on the thing that seems to support the conclusion that you've already come to, which is that we have a young Earth.
This is exactly the sort of thing that happens when people say, oh, I'm going to go poke holes in evolution and that's going to prove creationism. No, it won't. It won't. I mean, you could find out tomorrow that everything we understand about evolutionary theory is wrong. Poke holes in all of it so that the whole thing crumbles. You haven't done anything to demonstrate the truth of creationism. And finding, even if this was a legitimate hole in radiometric dating processes, even poking that hole does not confirm your young Earth creationist hypothesis.
Anyway.
Well, that's nice, but
I think it's great.
Yeah, when a paper's out there for 50 years, it becomes science.
No.
Error. Error, foul, wrong.
You have failed, and I'm kicking you back to remediate science 101.
Yes.
The length of time that an idea has been out there has no bearing on whether or not it's true, and especially when you're pointing to a paper that's been submitted and rejected. Just because it hasn't been rejected, how much more can it be rejected?
Yeah.
I mean, should we wait another 50 years with it still not being accepted, and now it's really, really science? Come on now.
So you don't believe that there's a possibility that since about 1940s, and this paper was first published in Germany in the late 1950s, that maybe there was a little bias against papers against radioactive dating since it became the absolute dating method back then?
So basically, you took Kenny. Basically, you just took my response, which had nothing to do with whether or not there was bias or error or anything else, and turned it into an accusation that I don't accept your conspiracy theory that scientists are out to shut down proof of creationism.
Well, you've heard of. Let's see.
Were we just talking about conspiracy?
Yeah.
Weren't we just?
Have you heard of Steve Austin of the Institute of Creation Research?
The only Steve Austin I know is a WWE guy. Lives around here.
And the $6 million man.
Steve Austin is a well-known creationist. He's head of the geology department at ICR.
Okay.
That
ICR, the people who couldn't get accredited?
Well, hang on a minute. He's got a PhD from Penn State, and he wrote a paper that passed peer review.
And what do
3 times?
Okay.
But it was
the
never
paper,
published
Kenny.
because he was Steve Austin.
Huh?
Whoa.
You want me to tell you what the paper was?
Kenny, you simultaneously just said that he was peer reviewed 3 times but never published. How the hell does that happen?
Yeah.
Where did this peer review happen? Where does this peer review occur if it's not a published paper?
Well, if they told him that they would publish a paper and then change their mind later from an editor.
Maybe because it didn't withstand peer review.
Any publisher can refuse to publish a paper.
Yes. And if it doesn't get published, then it didn't get peer reviewed.
Or it didn't withstand peer review.
No. It was peer reviewed 3 times and they didn't publish it. I wrote him a letter saying, we will never publish your paper.
Maybe because it's crap. Maybe because it wasn't scientifically sound. Maybe because when he submitted it for peer review, it got reviewed and it didn't withstand the peer review. That's how peer review works. That's how peer review works.
Kenny, I can go right.
Peer review is not a rubber stamp of instantaneous approval.
Yeah,
Review is review.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that your paper's worth a damn. And even if it receives good reviews and glowing stuff, doesn't mean it becomes instantly science. I could go write something right now and submit it for review and have it rejected over and over and over again. That doesn't mean there's a conspiracy against me or my idea, and it doesn't mean that my stuff becomes science. What's that?
Let me help you a little bit on this.
What?
This was a paper on geological paleontological evidence in the Nautiloid Canyon adjacent to the Grand Canyon. The leading expert on those fossils in the world is Steve Austin. There's about 1 billion of these cigar-shaped nautiloid fossils in that area.
Kenny, what's your point?
Orientated to one current direction in the red wall that covers all of North America.
Kenny.
It's evidence for a flood. That's why they didn't publish it.
Oh, right. Oh, I see. We're suppressing. Back to conspiracy theories again.
Thanks for calling, Kenny.
There's a mathematician that published in a journal for years and years to
Hey, Kenny, there's a...
rejected his paper after they told him in letter they would publish it.
Yeah,
and got $30,000.
Yeah, and you know what? They're not always perfect. You know, there's a biologist that somebody sent me an email the other day about. They've had this idea that disproves Darwinian evolution with a hybridization theory that they just have had a really difficult time publishing too. And so I submitted to some actual biologist who said that the science in there was 50 to 60 years out of date and that it shouldn't have been published because it's nonsense. I'm sorry that your pet theories don't meet scientific scrutiny, but that doesn't mean that there's a conspiracy. The only conspiracy is to not allow junk science into science.
No, the National Science Foundation is just run by atheists. There's no conspiracy.
Well, see, it's not run by atheists. The elite of the elite among scientists tend to be non-religious because they've actually exercised their critical thinking skills to evaluate the claims of religion and decided that they don't withstand those. That, though, does not mean that they then have constructed a conspiracy to keep down your religious views. Do you not understand what would happen within the scientific community if intelligent design or creationism could actually demonstrate the truth of what they would claim? I mean, you're talking about tons and tons of money, Nobel Prizes, Templeton Prizes. Well, where's the Templeton Prize for these guys, by the way? Templeton's already on your side. They're not even taken seriously by any science group, and they're handing money out left and right. And yet...
Well, what about the Templeton Prize to the physicists that discovered that there's an outside influence on the universe?
Yeah, I just said the Templeton Foundation is not considered a scientific organization. They have an agenda.
Oh, I see. Sorry. I didn't hear it on the phone line.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for calling, Kenny.
I thought Eugenie Scott, Executive Director of the National Science Foundation, was an atheist.
Eugenie Scott is a non-believer.
But Kenneth Miller, who is one of the world's leading evolutionary biologists,
is a Catholic.
Is a believer. So religious belief or bias has no bearing on what it is that a working scientist discovers about science.
But anyway, none of this makes any difference.
Should not have a bearing.
None of this makes any difference. You're a young Earth creationist, and you are convinced that there's some conspiracy to keep out the evidence supporting young Earth creationism. I'm not. I don't know what else we can say.
Well, if you're going to say on your program that creationists publish in their own literature because they can't publish in the scientific literature, and they turn around when there's evidence given that they're not allowed to.
No.
Well, but again, that's false. That's the sob story that they try to sell the gullible public.
Yeah, when you go out and create your own,
not even a creationist, there's nothing wrong with his paper.
Kenny, when you go out and create your own journals because you can't get into reputable ones, that tells us a lot about what you're proposing.
Yeah.
Now, you can spin that as a conspiracy that all the reputable scientists and all the reputable scientific journals have somehow gotten together and decided, no, all these people who are offering what some people would call junk scientists, or junk science, we're going to shut them down. And it's just nonsense.
And this is a common refrain, right? And the whole conspiracy thing, it was the central theme of that stupid movie Expelled. It was it's the central theme among conspiracy theorists in other areas, people who believe in the Illuminati and rubbish like this. This whole idea that, the mainstream, they actually do know the truth, but because some agenda that they have to stay in power or whatever it is, they have to suppress the truth. So whenever some bold, truth-seeking, real scientist comes along and presents the evidence for, God or young Earth or a flood or what have you, it's immediately suppressed because we cannot. It's utter rubbish. But of course, it plays to people who have spent their lives not learning how to think critically and watching things like X-Files, and it's a really great emotional appeal.
Hey, I like X-Files.
You
what the hell?
As being the underdog, the victim of the bullies, and
I can't believe you just did
it's
that.
All rubbish, really. The simple fact is that if there were evidence for a young Earth that was solid, anybody could present it, the scientific community would check it out. Scientists change their minds about things all the time. I mean, we're constantly changing our minds about what we think we know about the universe. I mean, recently it was discovered that the universe expanding at a much, not only at a much faster rate than we originally thought, but it's actually accelerating. That's interesting. Don't really know the cause of that. Science is all about learning new and amazing and bizarre and strange things. They love that. They're not like, we found a new and amazing and bizarre and strange thing. Let's pretend it doesn't exist because we're really comfortable here. Yeah, that's just not how they work.
The age of the universe, by the way, is not contingent on the radiometric dating that you're talking about. Those things are in the time scales related to Earth. The fact that the universe is 13.7 billion years old and that we can get it down to a really fairly precise number. You're suggesting that it's 6 to 10,000 years old. There's several orders of magnitude difference between those two. It's young Earth, a young universe is one of the most laughably ridiculous concepts in the face of the actual evidence that we have, which is why even Answers in Genesis, who are bizarrely goofy in their creationist beliefs, don't advocate for it.
So, anyway.
But thanks, Kenny.
Yeah, we're going to have to move on now, but thanks a lot. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Got it.
Well, I think he took that very well.
Well, that's all right.
All right, so back to the same question. Who think the Earth only 6,000 years old, and why? I'm gonna take a little breaky break. I gotta take a piss.
Somebody said, can I smell your kneecaps?
Ooh, my kneecaps. I just put some cocoa butter on them. Let me take a piss real quick, guys. I'll be right back. outfit was done, like finished paint. That shit look good, but it looks better. That shit look good, but it looks better now. Add the details, like it's resale. Yeah. No, I would not miss. I'm from the 80s, so you better not diss. That's disrespect, cause you might get checked. And if you get checked, man, I'm coming right to your neck. And I might have that thing that'll break your set. And if you wanna, just ride on. Like, I get your point.
Yeah, it's right there.
What up? Training really hard on my wheelchair racing. I know that's right, boy. Better get them biceps right. them biceps and them triceps. I can see him now going down the track doing 99.9. Man, Lou be doing everything. Wheelchair racing, motherfucking goddamn be doing jujitsu, taekwondo. Man, be drawing all kind of crazy stuff. That boy said I do it all. Here's a Joe Rogan clip. I know it. Man, stay active.
I agree with the principle. Communicate. Battle of ideas. Marketplace of ideas. Very, very big ideas we all want to hear about, and what are the best ideas, and let's rank the ideas. There are people whose views are so extreme.
Y'all can really see how them colors are starting to come in though, and how I'm trying to pull that light onto the fabric, get those wrinkles in there. I'm gonna continue to work on this shirt. Shit looking hot, right? What? Oh no? Yeah, this bad boy looking good. You might have to close that blind, get that, well, I don't know, that extra bright sunlight starting to come in the window at that angle now. Take another sippy. Gotta get back to painting, guys. We gotta get a lot of painting done today, man, as much as we can. All right, it's 1:30. Let me paint at 2 o'clock, then we can chill for another minute. And then
2 o'clock, I'm like, wait. I looked at my time, I'm like 6:30.
1:30. I meant 2 hours. Yeah, because it'll be time to eat something soon. And watch a movie and chill out for the rest of the night. Alright. Y'all want the camera to stay back here, or y'all want the camera back on the tripod up close so y'all see that brushwork? Brushwork. I feel like a surgeon when I be putting these gloves on, son. About to do some damage up in here. I started watching this movie last night called I Am Mother. Fell asleep on this shit. Might finish it though. About this robot raising a child, yo. That shit's crazy. They're trying to figure out the robots, the bad guys.
That you can't really bring them to the table as reasonable negotiating partners for figuring something out.
Right, like Richard Spencer.
Sure, or even, I mean, okay, imagine...
Louis Farrakhan.
Louis Farrakhan, who I've spoken out about many times. Imagine that we want to figure out what the tax rate should be. Something that politicians have to do all the time. if you have a group of people who believe that we need a 25% flat tax, and a group of people who want, like an escalating progressive tax that gets as high as 70% on income over 10 million, whatever, right? Like fill it all in. All those people are going to be able to have a conversation. If someone comes in who said,
my beliefs, yo, my man, D1, yo, he put me up on this shit called the Kabbalion. I think that's about the closest thing you can get to what I believe. Yeah, so it's a free audio book. It's called The Kabbalion by the 3 Initiates, and it's in the public domain, and everybody can listen to it. But it's complex and simplistic in a way. Kabbalion, Kabbalion. That shit deep as fuck, bro. But when it's so deep. When you listen to it, you be like, aha, you're right. It's like you are right. Yo, look it up, bro. Listen to it. Where did Stardust come from? That's the whole guy. The whole guy complex is like, where did stuff? Where Stardust? That's something. Where did something come from? That's the heart. That's the ultimate question. Okay, we're made out of stuff. Stardust. We're made out of. Okay, if the Big Bang created all matter and energy, however many billion years ago, then we are still that. We're billions of years old. We're still that same matter and energy that was produced at the initiation of the Big Bang. Like, it's weird to think about it that way, but you're like billions of years old. But where did that come from? And the people who don't want to figure that part out, they just say it was God. God made us, and He created two peoples, and we procreated. And 6,000 years later, here we go. And it's like, I don't think that's the right story. I don't think that the Bible is. And that's the thing. If the beginning of it all, wherever everything come from, was there time before that? Or did that create time? Like, could there even be time if there is no existence, if there's nothing to exist? And then it's like, so is it who, what, or when did this happen? And we've tried to figure this shit out since we've been able to fucking think. But some myths just hold up strong and long. And like the Bible myth, the Jesus myth, and all that stuff just is holding up so strong and long. But we can't prove that. And we can't prove, we really don't understand like the initiation of the Big Bang either. So either way you look at it, religion or science, it's like, and religion tells you not to worry about that part. I'm God. When you die, you'll figure out everything because you can come to heaven. And it's like, then why don't everybody just die and go back to heaven then? Like, if you're such a faithful Christian, don't you want to hurry up and get there? Might as well commit suicide and just hurry up and go be with your God in heaven. That's what those kamikaze bombers of Japan in World War II believe, and goddamn, that's what
I don't think they believe in suicide. I don't think they believe in suicide.
Who?
God.
Christians? Oh.
Yeah, like that's
But yeah, but even like the Muslim terrorists, they blow themselves up because they think, I'm going to go to heaven for this. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing something real good. I'm about to go to heaven, get all my virgins. And so like, so their religions are stronger than yours. They're more willing to end this temporary existence and go to the eternal afterlife. But Christians are like, no, I'll wait till God calls me. And then you have a heart attack and you want somebody to resuscitate you and bring you back. And it's like, oh, you ain't ready to die? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, So it's weird, like. But I think the Kabbalion is probably the closest thing. The Kabbalion is the best explanation for me, personally, of a general understanding of what this thing is. And when you break it down, you are pure consciousness. That's it. And it feels like you yourself are somewhere in your head, like right behind your eyes and somewhere in between your ears. And that's where you think you are at. And you control your body. Do you feel like you are in your foot? Or you are in your kneecap? Or are you inside your head somewhere meshed around in your brain? And your consciousness is something else that we cannot understand. We are just matter. When someone dies, it's just a sack of meat sitting there. And how is this sack of meat thinking and aware of itself? And what is consciousness? And how can just a body create consciousness? And these are the questions we don't know. How can inanimate matter create a thinking being? Like, just YouTube it. The Kabbalion, YouTube it. I was thinking about getting a copy of the book.
Stardust?
The Kabbalion.
No, I'm reading that.
Oh yeah, we are Stardust.
My body doesn't feel like dust.
No?
I said my body doesn't feel like dust.
The Kabbalion, a study of the Hermetic philosophy of ancient Egypt and Greece by 3 initiates. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Algie Pug.
In my belief, alright, this is how I heard someone else explain it to me. And once again, this is probably one of the best explanations from it. But there's a kind of a picture analogy that goes with it. So if you can imagine that, once again, whatever this God force is, it is everything. It is everything that we can imagine and everything we can't imagine and understand. It's the whatever created all of this, whatever created matter, antimatter, gravity, like all these phenomena that we are aware of, whatever that source is conscious unto itself, the same way that we are conscious unto ourselves. Because you're conscious and you are aware that you are conscious. And the creative force is a consciousness. And so now imagine if you can only see water. You're in this vast, endless ocean of water. The water is you. You are a part of this ocean. Right? It's vast and endlessness. That is the supreme consciousness. Now imagine if somebody brings an eyedropper and dips down into this endless body of water and pulls out just one drop. The water that's inside the eyedropper is no different. It is no different than the vast ocean of water it came from. It is the exact same thing. The only difference is now it's in a vessel and it is detached from the main source and somewhat unaware of its own true vastness. That's the experience we know as life. We're in this vessel, experiencing emotions and pains and sorrows and joys. And then once the vessel can no longer hold that drop of water, it releases and goes back into the original body of water. It goes right back into the same source where it came from. And I think that's all it is. Our consciousness, we are a aperture of the supreme consciousness. We're just a small portion of it. And once we have experienced life and carry these experiences, we'll take that individual experience back to the original consciousness and enrich it, and it grows and continues to gain understanding of itself. That's the best way I can explain it. I think there's like some afterlife or like some reincarnation and all of that? I really don't. But it's the same thing like Alan Watts said. What do you remember before you were born? And what was it like before you were born? You don't fucking know. And that's what it's going to be like when you're dead. It's going to be exactly like before you were born.
What do you feel like it was before you were born? Nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You feel like it was nothing before you were born?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you know, see how they talk about like afterlife or reincarnation? Why don't you remember what you used to be? Right? Your brain conscious memories.
You won't come
Right.
back. I don't know. There's a lot of different theories about reincarnation.
I'm saying me personally, I would think your memory, at least from, I don't know, maybe your 3 times down the line of the life you had, would you remember it?
I don't know. But like some people, like yeah, if we are born of the consciousness, like some people say weird things about babies sometimes, and how babies view the world, and like they do have like this memory of something, and we all forget it though. Maybe. Reincarnation is real. Oh my God. Not this Cherokee guy. But anyway, Alan Watts talks about that too. Once again, it's the before birth and after birth. And then he said, okay, what if reincarnation is real? What if I die and I do come back as a baby, but I just don't remember that I lived a life before? Or isn't that the same thing as saying when someone dies, a baby is born? And I don't know. But if we are a part of this supreme consciousness, do we have a second time around? A lot of cultures say yeah. A lot of different aspects of it say no. You won't have a second chance around. By Tool, I used to listen to Tool back in the day. Man, they had some bugged ass videos where it would they would just be like claymation with these weird dolls and stuff, yo. Like Tool was on some. That's when Limp Bizkit was popping, yo. And I think that's why I started listening to Tool a little bit, because I was really liking Limp Bizkit, yo.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I was talking to my homegirl. She's gonna come with me on vacation when we go into Jersey.
Oh, that's what's up.
My mom needed somebody else to come fill the spot.
Oh yeah, and on top of that, I couldn't play this on the stream anyway because I don't want to get copyright infringement. But I'll definitely check it out, yo.
You wanna hit this? I'm just used to being with people that I'm passing it. I feel like I'm holding it too long.
Parable. So families and overwhelmingly warm. Oh, so familiar. It's written in cursive in a weird stance. This form I hold now. embracing you, this reality here. This one, this form I hold now. Yeah, I definitely gotta listen to that, Joan. Just like the first couple of lines of it, so familiar and warm, this form I hold. I can see where they're going. But yeah, I'll definitely get back on that. What we just listening to? We can play this right here though. Yo, D1, you still in here? Yo, Cherokee, don't come in here and start that shit. You're gonna get chopped. Now I don't mind talking about historically about any race or group of ethnic people, because everybody has a history, but don't Pix ain't never say nothing racist or nothing in here, so don't come in here and saying that he thinks a certain way about something because of his color. You don't know. A person, the color of their skin don't automatically determine how they think. See, all that crack is that ain't even called for, bro.
Knowledge that they may have acquired, but which are apparently opposed to each other, and which often serve to discourage and disgust the beginner in the study. Our intent is not to erect a new temple of knowledge, but rather to place in the hands of
Cherokee is a Bible thumper, and he believes that Jonah was inside of a fish for 7 days and came out alive to tell this story about it. He believes in the Damascus Road story. He believed that Lot's wife turned around and got turned into a pillar of salt. He really believed that shit, bro. He believed in Leviathan, the fire-breathing water dragon, because he believes in the Bible. He loves that stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? He loves that stuff.
Fix that's her question answered, or his question.
What's the question? Oh, they having their own conversation. All right. We're going to listen to a little bit of the Kabbalion. Oh, this is
a master key
this is
with which he may open the many inner doors in the temple of mystery through the main portals he has already entered. There is no portion of the occult teachings possessed by the world which have been so closely guarded as the fragments of the Hermetic teachings which have come down to us over the tens of centuries which have elapsed since the lifetime of its great founder, Hermes Trismegistus, the scribe of the gods, who dwelt in old Egypt in the days when the present race of men were contemporary with Abraham, and, if the legends be true, an instructor of that venerable sage, Hermes was and is the great central sun of occultism, whose rays have served to illumine the countless teachings which have been promulgated since his time. All the fundamental and basic teachings embedded in the esoteric teachings of every race may be traced back to Hermes. Teachings of India, undoubtedly, many advanced the secret doctrine was firmly established. From other lands also came the learned ones, all of whom regarded Hermes as the master of masters, and his influence was so great that in spite of the many wanderings from the path on the part of the centuries of teachers in these different lands, there may still be found a certain basic resemblance and correspondence which underlies the many and often quite divergent theories entertained and taught by the occultists of these different lands today. The student of comparative religions will be able to perceive the influence of the Hermetic teachings in every religion worthy of the name now known to man, whether it be a dead religion or one in full vigour in our own times. There is always certain correspondence in spite of the contradictory features, and the Hermetic teachings act as the great reconciler. The life work of Hermes seems to have been in the direction of planting the great seed truth, which has grown and blossomed in so many strange forms, rather than to establish a school of philosophy which would dominate the world's thought. But followers followed the Hermetic custom and reserved it. From lip to ear, the truth has been handed down among the few. There have always been a few initiates in each generation, in the various lands of the earth, who kept alive the sacred flame of the Hermetic teachings, and such have always been willing to use their lamps to relight the lesser lamps of the outside world, when the light of truth grew dim and clouded by reason of neglect, and when the wicks became clogged with foreign matter. There were always a few to tend faithfully the altar of the truth, upon which was kept alight the perpetual lamp of wisdom. These men devoted their lives to the labour of love, which the poet has so well stated in his lines. Oh, let not the flame die out, cherished age after age in its dark cavern, in its holy temples cherished, fed by pure ministers of love, let not the flame die out. These men have never sought popular approval, nor numbers of followers. They are indifferent to these things, for they know how few there are in each generation who are ready for the truth, or who would recognise it if it were presented to them. They reserve the strong meat for men, while others furnish the milk for babes. They reserve their pearls of wisdom for the few elect, who recognise their value and who wear them in their crowns, instead of casting them before the materialistic vulgar swine who would trample them in the mud and mix them with their disgusting mental food. But still these men have never forgotten or overlooked the original teachings of Hermes regarding the passing on of the words of truth to those ready to receive it, which teaching is stated in the Kybalion as follows. Where fall the footsteps of the Master, the ears of those ready for his teaching open wide. And again, when the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom. But their customary attitude has always been strictly in accordance with the other Hermetic aphorism, also in the Kybalion. The lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. There are those who have criticised this attitude of the Hermetists, and who have claimed that they did not manifest the proper spirit in their policy of seclusion and reticence. But a moment's glance back over the pages of history will show the wisdom of the masters, who knew the folly of attempting to teach to the world that which it was neither willing nor ready to receive. The Hermetists have never sought to be martyrs, and have instead sat silently aside with a pitying smile on their closed lips, while the heathen raged noisily about them in their customary amusement of putting to death and torture the honest but misguided enthusiasts who imagined that they could force upon a race of barbarians the truth capable of being understood only by the elect who had advanced along the path. And the spirit of persecution has not as yet died out in the land. There are certain Hermetic teachings which, if publicly promulgated, would bring down upon the teachers a great cry of scorn and revilement from the multitude, who would again raise the cry of "Crucify! Crucify!" In this little work we have endeavoured to give you an idea of the fundamental teachings of the Kybalion, striving to give you the working principles, leaving you to apply them yourselves, rather than attempting to work out the teaching in detail. If you are a true student, you will be able to work out and apply these principles. If not, then you must develop yourself into one, for otherwise the Hermetic teachings will be as words, words, words to you. The Three Initiates. End of introduction to the Kybalion. Chapter 1 of the Kybalion by Three Initiates. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 1. The Hermetic Philosophy. The lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. The Kybalion. From old Egypt have come the fundamental esoteric and occult teachings which have so strongly influenced the philosophies of all races, nations and peoples for several thousand years. Egypt, the home of the pyramids and the Sphinx, was a birthplace of the hidden wisdom and mystic teachings. From her secret doctrine all nations have borrowed. India, Persia, Chaldea, Media, China, Japan, Assyria, ancient Greece and Rome, and other ancient countries partook liberally at the feast of knowledge, which the Hierophants and masters of the land of Isis so freely provided for those who came prepared to partake of the great store of mystic and occult lore which the masterminds of that ancient land had gathered together. In ancient Egypt dwelt the great adepts and masters who have never been surpassed and who seldom have been equalled during the centuries that have taken their processional flight since the days of the great Hermes. In Egypt was located the great lodge of Lodges of the Mystics. At the doors of her temples entered the neophytes who afterwards, as hierophants, adepts and masters, travelled to the four corners of the earth, carrying with them the precious knowledge which they were ready, anxious and willing to pass on to those who were ready to receive the same. All students of the occult recognised the debt that they owe to these venerable masters of that ancient land. But amongst these great masters of ancient Egypt, there once dwelt one of whom masters hailed as the Master of Masters. This man, if man indeed he was, dwelt in Egypt in the earliest days. He was known as Hermes Trismegistus. He was the father of the occult wisdom, the founder of astrology, the discoverer of alchemy. The details of his life story are lost to history owing to the lapse of the years, though several of the ancient countries disputed with each other in their claims to the honour of having furnished his birthplace, and this thousands of years ago. The date of his sojourn in Egypt, in that his last incarnation on this planet, is not now known, but it has been fixed at the early days of the oldest dynasties of Egypt, long before the days of Moses. The best authorities regard him as a contemporary of Abraham, and some of the Jewish traditions go so far as to claim that Abraham acquired a portion of his mystic knowledge from Hermes himself. As the years rolled by after his passing from this plane of life, tradition recording that he lived 300 years in the flesh, the Egyptians deified Hermes and made him one of their gods under the name of Thoth. Years after, the people of ancient Greece also made him one of their many gods, calling him Hermes, the god of wisdom. The Egyptians revered his memory for many centuries, yes, tens of centuries, calling him the scribe of the gods, and bestowing upon him distinctively his ancient title Trismegistus, which means the thrice great, the great great, the greatest great, etc. In all the ancient lands, the name of Hermes Trismegistus was revered, the name being synonymous with the fount of wisdom. Even to this day, we use the term hermetic in the sense of secret, sealed so that nothing can escape, etc. And this by reason of the fact that the followers of Hermes always observed the principle of secrecy in their teachings. They did not believe in casting pearls before swine, but rather held to the teaching, milk for babes, meat for strong men, both of which maxims are familiar to readers of the Christian scriptures, but both of which had been used by the Egyptians for centuries before the Christian era. And this policy of careful dissemination of the truth has always characterized the Hermetics, even unto the present day. The Hermetic teachings are to be found in all lands, among all religions, but never identified with any particular country, nor with any particular religious sect. This is because of the warning of the ancient teachers against allowing the secret doctrine to become crystallized into a creed. The wisdom of this caution is apparent to all students of history. The ancient occultism of India and Persia degenerated and was largely lost, owing to the fact that the teachers became priests, and so mixed theology with the philosophy, the result being that the occultism of India and Persia has been gradually lost amidst the mass of religious superstition cults, creeds and gods. So it was with ancient Greece and Rome. So it was with the Hermetic teachings of the Gnostics and early Christians, which were lost at the time of Constantine, whose iron hand smothered philosophy with the blanket of theology, losing to the Christian Church that which was its very essence and spirit, and causing it to grope throughout several centuries before it found the way back to its ancient faith, the indications apparent to all careful observers in this 20th century being that the Church is now struggling to get back to its ancient mystic teachings. But there were always a few faithful souls who kept alive the flame, tending it carefully and not allowing its light to become extinguished. And thanks to these staunch hearts and fearless minds, we have the truth still with us. But it is not found in books to any great extent. It has been passed along from master to student, from initiate to hierophant, from lip to ear. When it was written down at all, its meaning was veiled in terms of alchemy and astrology, so that only those possessing the key could read it aright. This was made necessary in order to avoid the persecutions of the theologians of the Middle Ages, who fought the secret doctrine with fire and sword, stake, gibbet, and cross. Even to this day there will be found but few reliable books on the Hermetic philosophy, although there are countless references to it in many books written on various phases of occultism. And yet, the Hermetic philosophy is the only master key which will open all the doors of the occult teachings. In the early days, there was a compilation of certain basic Hermetic doctrines, passed on from teacher to student, which was known as the Kybalion, the exact significance and meaning of the term having been lost for several centuries. This teaching, however, is known to many to whom it has descended, from mouth to ear, on and on throughout the centuries. Its precepts have never been written down or printed, so far as we know. It was merely a collection of maxims, axioms, and precepts, which were non-understandable to outsiders, but which were readily understood by students, after the axioms, maxims, and precepts had been explained and exemplified by the Hermetic initiates to their neophytes. These teachings really constituted the basic principles of the art of Hermetic alchemy, which, contrary to general belief, dealt in the mastery of mental forces rather than material elements, the transmutation of one kind of mental vibrations into others, instead of the changing of one kind of metal into another. The legends of the Philosopher's Stone, which would turn base metal into gold, was an allegory relating to Hermetic philosophy, readily understood by all students of true Hermeticism. In this little book, of which this is the first lesson, we invite our students to examine into the Hermetic teachings as set forth in the Kybalion, and as explained by ourselves, humble students of the teachings who, while bearing the title of initiates, are still students at the feet of Hermes, the Master. We herein give you many of the maxims, axioms, and precepts of the Kybalion, accompanied by explanations and illustrations which we deem likely to render the teachings more easily comprehended by the modern student, particularly as the original text is purposely veiled in obscure terms. The original maxims, axioms, and precepts of the Kybalion are printed herein in quotation marks, the proper credit being given. Our own work is printed in the regular way in the body of the work. We trust that the many students to whom we now offer this little work will derive as much benefit from the study of its pages as have the many who have gone on before, treading the same path to mastery throughout the centuries that have passed since the times of Hermes Trismegistus, the Master of Masters, the Great Great. In the words of the Kybalion, where fall the footsteps of the Master, the ears of those ready for his teachings open wide. The Kybalion. Where the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh lips to fill them with wisdom. The Kybalion. So that, according to the teachings, the passage of this book to those ready for the instruction will attract the attention of such as are prepared to receive the teaching. And likewise, when the pupil is ready to receive the truth, then will this little book come to him or her. Such is the law. The Hermetic principle of cause and effect, in its aspect of the law of attraction, will bring lips and ear together, pupil and book in company. So mote it be. End of Chapter 1 of the Kybalion by 3 Initiates. This recording is in the public domain. Chapter 2 of the Kybalion by 3 Initiates. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 2, The 7 Hermetic Principles. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these, understandingly, possesses the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. The Kybalion. The 7 Hermetic principles upon which the entire Hermetic philosophy is based are as follows. 1. The principle of mentalism. 2. The principle of correspondence. 3. The principle of vibration. 4. The principle of polarity. 5. The principle of rhythm. 6. The principle of cause and effect. 7. The principle of gender. These 7 principles will be discussed and explained as we proceed with these lessons. A short explanation of each, however, may as well be given at this point. 1. The principle of mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains that the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances, which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy, and, in short, all that is apparent to our material senses, is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as a universal, infinite living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all of the varied mental and psychic phenomena that occupy such a large portion of the public attention, and which, without such explanation, are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. An understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement. The Hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner. With the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. This principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long ages ago, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery." And these words are as true today as at the time they were first written. Without this master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. 2. The principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life. The old Hermetic axiom ran in these words, as above, so below, as below, so above. And the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many a dark paradox and hidden secret of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we are able to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us. This principle is of universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe, as it is a universal law. The ancient Hermetists considered this principle as one of the most important mental instruments by which man was able to pry aside the obstacles which hid from view the unknown. Its use even tore aside the veil of Isis to the extent that a glimpse of the face of the goddess might be caught. Just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables man to measure distant suns and their movements while seated in his observatory, so a knowledge of the principle of correspondence enables man to reason intelligently from the known to the unknown. Studying the monad, he understands the archangel. 3. The principle of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion, Everything vibrates. Nothing is at rest. Facts which modern science endorses and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And yet this Hermetic principle was enunciated thousands of years ago by the masters of ancient Egypt. This principle explains that the differences between different manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit result largely from varying rates of vibration, from the all, which is pure spirit, down to the grossest form of matter. All is in vibration. The higher the vibration, the higher the position in the scale. The vibration of spirit is at such an infinite rate of intensity and rapidity that it is practically at rest, just as a rapidly moving wheel seems to be motionless. And at the other end of the scale, there are gross forms of matter whose vibrations are so low as to seem at rest. Between these poles, there are millions upon millions of varying degrees of vibration, from corpuscle and electron, atom and molecule, to worlds and universes. Everything is in vibratory motion. This is also true on the planes of energy and force, which are but varying degrees of vibration, and also on the mental planes, whose states depend upon vibration, and even on to the spiritual planes. An understanding of this principle, with the appropriate formulas, enables Hermetic students to control their own mental vibrations as well as those of others. The Masters also apply this principle to the conquering of natural phenomena in various ways. He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the sceptre of power, says one of the old writers. 4. The principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that everything is dual. Everything has two poles. Everything has its pair of opposites, all of which were old Hermetic axioms. It explains the old paradoxes that have perplexed so many, which have been stated as follows. Thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degree. Opposites are the same, differing only in degree. The pairs of opposites may be reconciled. Extremes meet. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truths are but half-truths. Every truth is half false. There are two sides to everything, etc., etc., etc. It explains that in everything there are two poles, or opposite aspects, and that opposites are really only the two extremes of the same thing, with many varying degrees between them. To illustrate, heat and cold, although opposites, are really the same thing, the differences consisting merely of degrees of the same thing. Look at your thermometer and see if you can discover where heat terminates and cold begins. There is no such thing as absolute heat or absolute cold. The two terms heat and cold simply indicate varying degrees of the same thing, and that same thing, which manifests as heat and cold, is merely a form, variety, and rate of vibration. So heat and cold are simply the two poles of that which we call heat, and the phenomena attendant thereupon are manifestations of the principle of polarity. The same principle manifests in the case of light and darkness, which are the same thing, the difference consisting in the varying degrees between the two poles of the phenomena. Where does darkness leave off and light begin? What is the difference between large and small, between hard and soft, between black and white, between sharp and dull, between noise and quiet, between high and low, between positive and negative? The principle of polarity explains these paradoxes, and no other principle can supersede it. The same principle operates on the mental plane. Let us take a radical and extreme example, that of love and hate, two mental states apparently totally different. Yet there are degrees of hate and degrees of love, and a middle point in which we use the terms like or dislike, which shade into each other so gradually that sometimes we are at a loss to know whether we like or dislike or neither. and all are simply degrees of the same thing, as you will see if you will but think a moment. And more than this, and considered of more importance by the Hermetists, it is possible to change the vibrations of hate to the vibrations of love in one's own mind and in the minds of others. Many of you who read these lines have had personal experiences of the involuntary rapid transition from love to hate, and the reverse, in your own case and that of others. And you will therefore realize the possibility of this being accomplished by the use of the will, by means of the Hermetic formulas. Good and evil are but the poles of the same thing, and the Hermetist understands the art of transmuting evil into good by means of an application of the principle of polarity. In short, the art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy known and practiced by the ancient and modern Hermetic masters. An understanding of the principle will enable one to change his own polarity as well as that of others, if he will devote the time and study necessary to master the art. 5. The principle of rhythm. Everything flows in and out. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is a measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that in everything there is manifested a measured motion, to and fro, a flow and inflow, a swing backward and forward, a pendulum-like movement, a tide-like ebb and flow, a high tide and low tide, between the two poles which exist in accordance with the principle of polarity described a moment ago. There is always an action and a reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe, suns, worlds, men, animals, mind, energy, and matter. This law is manifest in the creation and destruction of worlds, in the rise and fall of nations, in the life of all things, and finally, in the mental states of man. And it is with this latter that the Hermetists find the understanding of the principle most important. The Hermetists have grasped this principle, finding its universal application, and have also discovered certain means to overcome its effects in themselves by the use of the appropriate formulas and methods. They apply the mental law of neutralization. They cannot annul the principle or cause it to cease its operation, but they have learnt how to escape its effects upon themselves, to a certain degree depending upon the mastery of the principle. They have learned how to use it, instead of being used by it. In this and similar methods consists the art of the Hermetists. The master of Hermetics polarizes himself at the point at which he desires to rest, and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum, which would tend to carry him to the other pole. All individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery do this to a certain degree, more or less unconsciously. But the master does this consciously and by the use of his will, and attains a degree of poise and mental firmness almost impossible of belief on the part of the masses, who are swung backward and forward like a pendulum. This principle and that of polarity have been closely studied by the Hermetists, and the methods of counteracting, neutralizing, and using them form an important part of the Hermetic mental alchemy. 6. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause, everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the fact that there is a cause for every effect, an effect from every cause. It explains that everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens, that there is no such thing as chance, that while there are various planes of cause and effect, the high dominating the lower planes, still nothing ever entirely escapes the law. The Hermetists understand the art and methods of rising above the ordinary plane of cause and effect to a certain degree, and by mentally rising to a higher plane, they become causes instead of effects. The masses of people are carried along, obedient to environment, the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves, heredity, suggestion, and other outward causes moving them about like pawns on the chessboard of life. but the masters, rising to the plane above, dominate their moods, characters, qualities and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them, and become movers instead of pawns. They help to play the game of life instead of being played and moved about by other wills and environment. They use the principle instead of being its tools. The masters obey the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule on their own plane. In this statement there is condensed a wealth of Hermetic knowledge. Let him read who can. 7. The principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that there is gender manifested in everything, the masculine and feminine principles ever at work. This is true not only of the physical plane, but of the mental and even the spiritual planes. On the physical plane, the principle manifests as sex. On the higher planes, it takes higher forms, but the principle is ever the same. No creation, mental, physical or spiritual, is possible without this principle. An understanding of its laws will throw light on many a subject that has perplexed the minds of men. The principle of gender works ever in the direction of generation, regeneration and creation. Everything and every person contains the two elements or principles, or this great principle within it, him or her. Every male thing has the female element also. Every female contains also the male principle. If you would understand the philosophy of mental and spiritual creation, generation and regeneration, you must understand and study this Hermetic principle. It contains the solution of many mysteries of life. We caution you that this principle has no reference to the many base, pernicious and degrading lustful theories, teachings and practices which are taught under fanciful titles and which are a prostitution of the great natural principle of gender. Such base revivals of the ancient infamous forms of phallicism tend to ruin mind, body and soul, and the Hermetic philosophy has ever sounded the warning note against these degraded teachings which tend towards lust, licentiousness and perversion of nature's principles. If you seek such teachings, you must go elsewhere for them. Hermeticism contains nothing for you along these lines. To the pure, all things are pure. To the base, all things are base. End of Chapter 2 of the Kybalion by 3 initiates. Chapter 3 of the Kybalion by 3 initiates. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 3. Mental Transmutation. Mind, as well as metals and elements, may be transmuted from state to state, degree to degree, condition to condition, pole to pole, vibration to vibration. True Hermetic transmutation is a mental art. The Kybalion. As we have stated, the Hermetists were the original alchemists, astrologers and psychologists, Hermes having been the founder of these schools of thought. From astrology has grown modern astronomy. From alchemy has grown modern chemistry. From the mystic psychology has grown the modern psychology of the schools. But it must not be supposed that the ancients were ignorant of that which the modern schools suppose to be their exclusive and special property. The records engraved on the stones of ancient Egypt show conclusively that the ancients had a full comprehensive knowledge of astronomy, the very building of the pyramids showing the connection between their design and the study of astronomical science. Nor were they ignorant of chemistry, for the fragments of the ancient writings show that they were acquainted with the chemical properties of things. In fact, the ancient theories regarding physics are being slowly verified by the latest discoveries of modern science, notably those relating to the constitution of matter. Nor must it be supposed that they were ignorant of the so-called modern discoveries in psychology. On the contrary, the Egyptians were especially skilled in the science of psychology, particularly in the branches that the modern schools ignore, but which, nevertheless, are being uncovered under the name of psychic science, which is perplexing the psychologists of today and making them reluctantly admit that there may be something in it after all. The truth is that beneath the material chemistry, astronomy and psychology, that is, the psychology in its phase of brain action, the ancients possessed a knowledge of the transcendental astronomy, called astrology, of transcendental chemistry, called alchemy, of transcendental psychology, called mystic psychology. They possessed the inner knowledge as well as the outer knowledge, the latter alone being possessed by modern scientists. Among the many secret branches of knowledge possessed by the Hermetists was that known as mental transmutation, which forms the subject matter of this lesson. Transmutation is a term usually employed to designate the ancient art of transmutation of metals, particularly of the base metals, into gold. The word transmute means to change from one nature, form or substance into another, to transform, Webster. And accordingly, mental transmutation means the art of changing and transforming mental states, forms and conditions into others. So you may see that mental transmutation is the art of mental chemistry, if you like the term, a form of practical mystic psychology. But this means far more than appears on the surface. Transmutation, alchemy or chemistry on the mental plane is important enough in its effects, to be sure, and if the art stopped there, it would still be one of the most important branches of study known to man. But this is only the beginning. Let us see why. The first of the 7 Hermetic principles is the principle of mentalism, the axiom of which is, the all is mind, the universe is mental, which means that the underlying reality of the universe is mind, and the universe itself is mental, that is, existing in the mind of the all. We shall consider this principle in succeeding lessons, but let us see the effect of the principle if it be assumed to be true. If the universal is mental in its nature, then mental transmutation must be the art of changing the conditions of the universe along the lines of matter, force, and mind. So you see, therefore, that mental transmutation is really the magic of which the ancient writers had so much to say in their mystical works, and about which they gave so few practical instructions. If all be mental, then the art which enables one to transmute mental conditions must render the master the controller of material conditions as well as those ordinarily called mental. Matter of fact, none but advanced mental alchemists have been able to attain the degree of power necessary to control the grosser physical conditions, such as the control of the elements of nature, the production or cessation of tempests, the production and cessation of earthquakes and other great physical phenomena. But that such men have existed and do exist today is a matter of earnest belief to all advanced occultists of all schools. That the masters exist and have these powers, the best teachers assure their students, having had experiences which justify them in such belief and statements. These masters do not make public exhibitions of their powers, but seek seclusion from the crowds of men in order to better work their way along the path of attainment. We mention their existence at this point merely to call your attention to the fact that their power is entirely mental and operates along the lines of the higher mental transmutation under the Hermetic principle of mentalism. The universe is mental, the Kabbalion. But students and Hermetists of lesser degree than masters, the initiates and teachers, are able to freely work along the mental plane in mental transmutation. In fact, all that we call psychic phenomena, mental influence, mental science, new thought phenomena, etc., operates along the same general lines, for there is but one principle involved, no matter by what name the phenomena be called. The student and practitioner of mental transmutation works among the mental plane, transmuting mental conditions, states, etc., into others, according to various formulas, more or less efficacious. The various treatments, affirmations, denials, etc., of the schools of mental science are but formulas, often quite imperfect and unscientific, of the Hermetic art. The majority of modern practitioners are quite ignorant compared to the ancient masters, for they lack the fundamental knowledge upon which the work is based. Only may the mental states, etc., of one's self be changed or transmuted by Hermetic methods, but also the states of others may be and are constantly transmuted in the same way, usually unconsciously, but often consciously by some understanding the laws and principles, in cases where the people affected are not informed of the principles of self-protection. And more than this, as many students and practitioners of modern mental science know, every material condition, depending upon the minds of other people, may be changed or transmuted in accordance with the earnest desire, will, and treatments of persons desiring changed conditions of life. The public is so generally informed regarding these things at present that we do not deem it necessary to mention the same at length, our purpose at this point being merely to show the Hermetic principle and art underlying all of these various forms of practice, good and evil, for the force can be used in opposite directions according to the Hermetic principles of polarity. In this little book we shall state the basic principles of mental transmutation, that all who read may grasp the underlying principles and thus possess the master key that will unlock the many doors of the principle of polarity. We shall now proceed to a consideration of the first of the Hermetic 7 principles, the principle of mentalism, in which is explained the truth that the all is mind, the universe is mental, in the words of the Kybalion. We ask the close attention and careful study of this great principle on the part of our students, for it is really the basic principle of the whole Hermetic philosophy and of the Hermetic art of mental transmutation. End of Chapter 3 of the Kybalion by 3 Initiates. Chapter 4 of the Kybalion by 3 Initiates. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 4. The All. Under and back of the universe of time, space and change is ever to be found the substantial reality, the fundamental truth. The Kybalion. Substance means that which underlies all outward manifestations, the essence, the essential reality, the thing in itself, etc. Substantial means actually existing, being the essential element, being real, etc. Reality means the state of being real, true, enduring, valid, fixed, permanent, actual, etc. Under and behind all outward appearances or manifestations, there must always be a substantial reality. This is the law. Man, considering the universe, of which he is a unit, sees nothing but change in matter, forces, and mental states. He sees that nothing really is, but that everything is becoming and changing. Nothing stands still. Everything is being born, growing, dying. The very instant a thing reaches its height, it begins to decline. The law of rhythm is in constant operation. There is no reality, enduring quality, fixity, or substantiality in anything. Nothing is permanent but change. He sees all things evolving from other things and resolving into other things, a constant action and reaction, inflow and outflow, building up and tearing down, creation and destruction, birth, growth and death. Nothing endures but change. And if he be a thinking man, he realizes that all of these changing things must be but outward appearances or manifestations of some underlying power, some substantial reality. All thinkers in all lands and in all times have assumed the necessity for postulating the existence of this substantial reality. All philosophies worthy of the name have been based upon this thought. Men have given this substantial reality many names. Some have called it by the name of deity, under many titles. Others have called it the infinite and eternal energy. Others have tried to call it matter, but all have acknowledged its existence. It is self-evident. It needs no argument. In these lessons we have followed the example of some of the world's greatest thinkers, both ancient and modern, the Hermetic Masters, and have called this underlying power, this substantial reality, by the Hermetic name of the All, which term we consider the most comprehensive of the many terms applied by man to that which transcends names and terms. We accept and teach the view of the great Hermetic thinkers of all times, as well as of those illumined souls who have reached higher planes of being, both of whom assert that the inner nature of the All is unknowable. This must be so, for naught by the All itself can comprehend its own nature and being. The Hermetists believe and teach that the All, in itself, is and must ever be unknowable. They regard all the theories, guesses and speculations of the theologians and metaphysicians regarding the inner nature of the All as but the childish efforts of mortal minds to grasp the secret of the infinite. Such efforts have always failed and will always fail from the very nature of the task. One pursuing such inquiries travels around and around in the labyrinth of thought until he is lost to all sane reasoning, action or conduct, and is utterly unfitted for the work of life. He is like the squirrel which frantically runs around and around the circling treadmill wheel of his cage, travelling ever and yet reaching nowhere. At the end, a prisoner still, and standing just where he started. And still more presumptuous are those who attempt to ascribe to the All the personality, qualities, properties, characteristics and attributes of themselves, ascribing to the All the human emotions, feelings and characteristics, even down to the pettiest qualities of mankind, such as jealousy, susceptibility to flattery and praise, desire for offerings and worship, and all the other survivals from the days of the childhood of the race. Such ideas are not worthy of grown men and women, and are rapidly being discarded. At this point, it may be proper for me to state that we make a distinction between religion and theology, between philosophy and metaphysics. Religion, to us, means that intuitional realization of the existence of the All and one's relationship to it, while theology means the attempts of men to ascribe personality, qualities and characteristics to it, their theories regarding its affairs, will, desires, plans and designs, and their assumption of the office of middlemen between the All and the people. Philosophy, to us, means the inquiry after knowledge of things knowable and thinkable, while metaphysics means the attempt to carry the inquiry over and beyond the boundaries and into regions unknowable and unthinkable, and with the same tendency as that of theology. And consequently, both religion and philosophy mean to us things having roots in reality, while theology and metaphysics seem like broken reeds, rooted in the quicksands of ignorance and affording naught but the most insecure support for the mind or soul of man. We do not insist upon our students accepting these definitions. We mention them merely to show our position. At any rate, you shall hear very little about theology and metaphysics in these lessons. That which is the fundamental truth, the substantial reality, is beyond true naming, but the wise men call it the All, the Kybalion. In its essence, the All is unknowable, the Kybalion. But the report of reason must be hospitably received and treated with respect, the Kybalion. The human reason, whose reports we must accept so long as we think at all, informs us as follows regarding the All, and that without attempting to remove the veil of the unknowable. 1. The All must be all that really is. There can be nothing existing outside of the All, else the All would not be the All. 2. The All must be infinite, for there is nothing else to define, confine, bound, limit, or restrict the All. It must be infinite in time, or eternal. It must have always continually existed, for there is nothing else to have ever created it, and something can never evolve from nothing. And if it had ever not been, even for a moment, it would not be now. It must continually exist forever, for there is nothing to destroy it, and it can never not be, even for a moment, because something can never become nothing. It must be infinite in space. It must be everywhere, for there is no place outside of the All. It cannot be otherwise than continuous in space, without break, cessation, separation or interruption, for there is nothing to break, separate or interrupt its continuity, and nothing with which to fill in the gaps. It must be infinite in power, or absolute, for there is nothing to limit, restrict, restrain, confine, disturb, or condition it. It is subject to no other power, for there is no other power. 3. The all must be immutable, or not subject to change in its real nature, for there is nothing to work changes upon it, nothing into which it could change, nor from which it could have changed. It cannot be added to, nor subtracted from, increased, nor diminished, nor become greater or lesser in any respect whatsoever. It must have always been, and must always remain, just what it is now. The all. There has never been, is not now, and never will be anything else into which it can change. The all being infinite, absolute, eternal, and unchangeable, it must follow that anything finite, changeable, fleeting, and conditioned cannot be the all. And as there is nothing outside of the all, in reality, then any and all such finite things must be as nothing in reality. Now do not become befogged nor frightened. We're not trying to lead you into the Christian Science field under cover of Hermetic philosophy. There is a reconciliation of this apparently contradictory state of affairs. Be patient. We will reach it in time. We see around us that which is called matter, which forms the physical foundation of all forms. Is the all merely matter? Not at all. Matter cannot manifest life or mind, and as life and mind are manifested in the universe, the all cannot be matter, for nothing rises higher than its own source. Nothing is ever manifested in an effect that is not in the cause. Nothing is evolved as a consequence that is not involved as an antecedent. And then modern science informs us that there is really no such thing as matter, that what we call matter is merely interrupted energy or force. That is, energy or force at a low rate of vibration. As a recent writer has said, matter has melted into mystery. Even material science has abandoned the theory of matter and now rests upon the basis of energy. Then is the all mere energy or force? Not energy or force as materialists use the terms, for their energy and force are blind, mechanical things, devoid of life or mind. Life and mind can never evolve from blind energy or force, for the reason given a moment ago. Nothing can rise higher than its source. Nothing is evolved unless it is involved. Nothing manifests in the effect unless it is in the cause. And so the all cannot be mere energy or force, for if it were, then there would be no such things as life and mind in existence. And we know better than that, for we are alive and using mind to consider this very question, and so are those who claim that energy or force is everything. What is there then higher than matter or energy that we know to be existent in the universe? Life and mind. Life and mind in all their varying degrees of unfoldment. Then, you ask, do you mean to tell us that the all is life and mind? Yes and no is our answer. If you mean life and mind as we poor petty mortals know them, we say no. The all is not that. But what kind of life and mind do you mean, you ask? The answer is living mind, as far above that which mortals know by those words as life and mind are higher than mechanical forces or matter. Infinite living mind as compared to finite life and mind. We mean that which the illumined souls mean when they reverently pronounce the word spirit. The all is infinite living mind. The illumined call it spirit. End of chapter 4 of the Kybalion by 3 initiates.
Already made it through 4 chapters of the Kybalion. And Cherokee ain't learned shit.
Are you cool with Cherokee or no?
No, Cherokee, he just loves me now. We only met just a little while ago, but he wanted to be my best friend. He trying to save my soul, so I'm not. So I don't be doomed to eternal damnation. He's trying to kick that knowledge to me. Is that a picture? It's a painting.
Is that good? I don't know if that was a compliment or an insult. Oh, I didn't read the rest of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on that one when I get finished with this one. I've been working on that one for a couple months now. I started that one a while ago when I started the last painting I finished. Yo, Cherokee, what's your problem, man? You know we love you, bro. That's why you ain't been kicked out the stream yet. You're just so overly aggressive with your Bible thumping. I mean, so much so that you know we're not taking you serious, right? We just basically laughing at almost everything you say, right? But it's good you're here, because we always need the other side of the debate. Because if you weren't here, then who would I debate with? Because everybody else pretty much agree.
I like his name is Cherokee God.
God.
So with the A.
Yeah, God is real. It's not the God in the Bible. That's what how many times I have to tell you that, bro? We just listen to the Kabbalion and everything is all, and we all exist inside the mind of the all, the infinite that cannot be created or destroyed. We understand that. Now, is he some dude sitting on the throne in a kingdom called heaven with some angels and demons fighting and, you know, giving birth to himself so he can sacrifice himself to himself for all our sins? No. I don't think that's how it goes. Yeah, faith is good. I do have faith that there's a God. Not the God in the Bible. That's all. I'm not going to personify this ultimate ununderstandable force and say it's like, oh, this just this guy with magic powers. And he is somewhere doing something. Like, no, it's not that. He interacts and intervenes in human lives. No. Hey, bro. Okay, yeah, the creator, the sun and the moons, and did your God? Do you believe that your God told Abraham to go kill his own son? If you believe that, bro, and I don't believe in the same God you believe in. This dude believe in talking snakes and all that shit. Giants.
He talking about Scientology. I'm done. My friend was talking about that. I thought he was crazy.
I draw the line at Scientology. The aliens are gods. So you do believe in talking snakes? Wow. And God don't got no problem killing his own. Why? Why he make us so he can just kill us? The aliens are black men with afros. I'm done. I'm dead. I'm dead. You special, bro. You know what? I would, if I was close to you, I'd give you a hug right now. I swear I would. You so cute. That is so cute. A bit. You come off a bit racist. Just a bit.
A bit racist.
Because he a black man, and if you don't do what he says, he'll kill you. Damn, bro, you so intelligent, but dumb. Okay. I'm intelligent enough to want to learn more than just what some old ass book says about some dude who supposedly came back from the dead. Right. So why did God have to change his mind on all the laws that he made? You know, the New Covenant in the New Testament, where he changed all the laws and everything when Jesus came. Why God ain't get it right the first time? Why didn't he just do it the first time instead of saying, oh, these people keep fucking up over and over and over. They're not going to listen to me. I got to send myself down there as my son and create a new covenant. Betty White's with white toilet paper. That's funny and disgusting. Because we all white with white toilet paper. When I do, is my shit not brown? It's a universal thing. We all flush it down. When you wipe, do you look at the tissue? Most folks doing ain't even an issue. Hot stuff makes it burn coming out. Most everyone know what I'm talking about. We're just one big race on this planet. We all burp and fart because that's the way God planned it. So don't act like you're superior. Eat something bad and just like me, you get diarrhea. Black, white, purple, green, brown, and gold. All that shit from the same little hole. That's my Dookie song.
No, you did not just rap about do you?
We the ones that didn't have it right. No, because we didn't reset the whole world and make all these changes. God did. So obviously things weren't going the way he wanted it to because he had to change it. You know, I don't like this. I don't like you building towers and stuff. Smash your tower. Disperse you across the land. Change your language so that now you just babble. Blah, 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 blah. And you can't understand each other. But why, God? Dang. Where's Noah? God always has it right. We were the ones who got it wrong. If God had it right, man, there wouldn't be no changes to his covenant. You know what? Those rules that I gave y'all back in the day, let's scratch them out. Scratch them out. Scratch them out. Look, all you got to do is confess in your heart that Jesus is your Savior, and you'll be alright. You know what I'm saying? No more burnt offerings of lamb and sheeps. Y'all ain't got to make no more blood sacrifices to me. Because Jesus is the sacrificial lamb, and he's the ultimate sacrifice. Because I'm going to just change it now. God gave us laws, status, and commands, and we didn't follow it. Why? Because it's free will? Alright, dude. It's useless arguing with you, man. because we was wicked. But didn't God know we were going to be wicked? Isn't he omnipotent? Doesn't he know everything, the past, present, and future? Wouldn't he have foreseen his human creations becoming wicked?
I guess just like before the flood, quote unquote.
But now we waking up because he about to return. Man, you know, people that said God was going to come back 187 times. Oh, Jesus. What was the last dude? He was like in 1998 or something. God is going to come back. Jesus is going to come back in the 90s. I was like, really? I was in high school and that shit was all over the news. Some motherfucker made a prophecy. It was like, okay. So you think the Earth's 6,000 years old too, right? We were talking about that earlier. The Earth only 6,000 years old, right? Mel Gibson is playing God in the movie. He's not gonna do better than what's the old black dude name? Okay, bro.
I don't recall the Bible talking about saying the white men are the devil. Is that what he's named?
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Why are there so many white Christians? Move, probably telling you.
Yeah, but on the Sermon on the Mount, he said he will, the rapture will occur before even you pass from this earth. The people he were talking to at that time in the Bible, he said the rapture is going to happen on earth 2,000 years ago. No rapture.
In Killeen, Texas?
It's Jerichiah.
Jerichiah, I'm sorry. I don't even know if they spelled that right. Does it have a K or a CH? Forget it. It doesn't matter. Hi, Jerichiah.
How are you? How are y'all doing? Pretty good, thank you.
Good, thanks.
Let me bring it Spanish.
Hey, so I had a question about your worldview.
Mm-hmm.
I was just curious, from a theistic perspective, being a non-denominational Christian, I'm just curious, how come atheists don't actually practice or live out their worldview?
I do not know what you mean. We're going to have to get more specific.
Atheists per se don't have a worldview. Each individual person, each person does, but there's not one atheist worldview that 100 million atheists share.
Right. Atheism is one perspective on one topic that maybe informs the rest of our thinking, but does not determine everything else that we think.
Was there a specific thing?
Phil and I are really geeky about math, and a lot of atheists are not.
Is there a specific?
I mean, but atheists
can't answer the four most important questions about life philosophically.
Important is subjective.
And even if they can't, it doesn't mean they're wrong.
What are the four most important questions about life? I'm biting.
It would be origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. And I even beg to differ. Atheism.
Those aren't questions.
Humanity, no.
Yeah, I didn't hear a question, Mark.
Yeah.
Can you give us one question to start with?
So from a philosophical perspective, can you prove to me the origin and the historical evidence of why somebody would be an atheist when they contradict their own worldview within the frame they live?
Okay, you're back to the first question that I didn't understand.
I think so. Was that a question? I think it was.
Well,
it was a bad question.
The question was, can you? And so
I think it's a loaded question.
Since I didn't quite understand the question, I'm just going to say no. Next.
Okay,
can you dumb things down for us a little? Because we're just simple-minded atheists.
I apologize because I thought Christians couldn't be logical like atheists.
Well, that's what you think. Yes.
Because the origin of life. How do you even explain the Big Bang Theory? Well, what I find hysterically funny is how atheists reject the evidence we have of Scripture and the manuscripts that are passed down from generations, and yet they deny the God of the Bible, but yet they can't even prove millions of years ago what happened.
Okay.
Do you know why? Okay. Do you know why scientists, and I'm not talking about atheists, but just cosmologists in general, have concluded that there was a Big Bang?
Yeah, in the beginning, God spoke.
No, that's not why cosmologists have concluded that. That's why you have. But the concept of a Big Bang wasn't around 100 years ago. So do you understand where people came to that conclusion in the first place?
Science.
Okay.
I like that.
Can you be more specific, though? I mean, was it biology? There are a lot of topics that science covers. All right, so let me help you out a little bit. When you look at light, so you know how light can appear at different colors depending on the wavelength of light. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So things that have longer wavelengths look red to us, and if they're even longer than that, then we can't see them because they're infrared and beyond. Things that have very short wavelengths look blue or purple to us, and if they're too short, then we can't see them either because our eyes don't work that way. But what scientists have observed is that when things are moving very quickly, like close to the speed of light, or maybe not all that close. By the way, my dad is a physicist, and he's sitting in the audience right now, and I feel his eyes on me. Sorry I didn't stick with the physics classes, Dad. I'm doing my best. When things are moving quickly, they experience a shift toward the red.
Because moving away.
Yes, moving away. Because even though the wavelength of the light doesn't change, their motion relative to you seems to be longer. What scientists observed was that if you look out at any point in space, everything is a little bit more redshifted than you would expect it to be based on what we know about the composition of stars. And from this, they concluded that everything in the universe is moving away from us very rapidly.
And the farther away, the more rapid.
Yes. The farther away things get, the more rapid they are. And that is consistent with going back into the past and finding that at one point, everything was locally existing within the same small area, and things were expanding from there. Now, does the Big Bang say what happened at the start of that? No. Do we know what that is? We have some... Okay, how do you know that?
Where in the Bible does it say Big Bang?
Yeah, the Bible does not say Big Bang. This is something that Christians have just latched onto since it was discovered by other people.
Because more than 100 years ago, Christians argued that the fact that the universe was finite was supported in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes.
Yes, they did. Okay. You may think that they were mistaken and they were misreading the Bible, but they did argue that a long time ago.
No, I believe you. I'm not saying they didn't argue
You
that.
said no.
It means they were right.
But did that explanation make sense to you? Because you're asking why do atheists believe in the Big Bang, and I gave you the answer. Is that a sensible conclusion?
Well, what caused the Big Bang?
We don't know.
Don't know.
And sometimes I don't know is the right answer.
No, God is the answer.
How do you know?
I don't need to know.
Well, there you go. Why are you asking how I know something if you have no idea what you're talking about?
And we actually want it to be true, not just because you believe it. Support what you believe.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Let's try that for a change.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, the thing you said is scientifically, science. What does science mean? It just means knowledge. Epistemology and
Is this
stuff
part
like
of
that.
your evidence, or are you dodging the question?
No, I'm not dodging the question. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and God said, "Let there be light."
How do you know that?
I don't need to know that. How do you know that?
Okay. Why are we talking then? If you don't feel like there's anything that you have to tell us that's useful information because you don't know it or need to, then why did you call?
You said you have evidence and then you don't provide any. Why is that?
Well, the evidence is in the Bible itself.
Yeah, but we don't believe the Bible.
That's fine. I don't believe in atheism.
Okay. Well, and good chat. Next.
So do you have evidence or not?
Yeah, prophecy alone proves the divinity of God.
Oh, so you do think that's evidence?
Oh, yeah, it's sufficient.
Okay. Hit me with your favorite prophecy. Make it a good one.
Isaiah 53.
Uh-huh.
The book of Isaiah was written 700 years before the Messiah.
Just give us the prophecy.
Yeah. Tell us what it says and what happened.
If you read Isaiah, the book of Isaiah was written 700 years before Christ even came. Jesus came AD 1. The prophet Isaiah prophesied of a suffering servant, which Orthodox Jews understand this passage to be a messianic prophecy. And if you read the entire chapter, no other person in history has fulfilled this but Jesus Christ.
There have been no other suffering servants in history?
Not that, no, people have suffered, but they do not fulfill every single verse in this chapter like Jesus.
Like what?
I mean, if you read verse 3, he's despised and rejected of men and man of sorrows.
Oh, okay. Good thing Jesus was the only despised and rejected person. That is an amazing prophecy. And remember, I asked you to bring your favorite one, and that was the first one that you came up with.
Now, I have a question for you as far as the Bible. When people wrote the books of the New Testament, were they able to read the Old Testament?
Were they able to read the Old Testament? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So when someone wrote books or stories to put in what became the New Testament, they could read what was previously written.
Yes.
Change the story to fulfill what was written before.
No, not at all.
Well, I think I could do that if I read an old Batman story. I could incorporate some of those themes into a new Batman story.
I guess I am a more creative author than those guys, because I could totally write you a Messiah story right now that fulfills the prophecies better.
No, what you don't understand is this was written 700 years before Christ even came.
That is a really long time to be able to come up with a story that fits it.
And no one else in history fulfilled that prophecy.
No one else?
No one?
You
so
every
far
single
you've
human
told us that there is a suffering servant. Okay, I think most servants suffer. And what was the other one? He was despised. Maybe he was a douchebag.
No, maybe he's just fulfilling prophecy because you're actually rejecting him as well.
I reject the Easter Bunny as well.
What? Okay, so if I accepted him, then the call would be over because you'd be like, well, yeah, you accept him, good job. If I don't accept him, then obviously it's true because not accepting him proves that he's fulfilling the prophecy. That's pretty weak.
No, it's pretty strong.
Okay, if you say so.
Pretty safe. Because there's prophecies in the Bible that are fulfilled, and only Christ can fulfill those prophecies.
All right, so he was a suffering servant, and he was despised. What else?
If you keep going down to verses 5, it says, "But he was wounded for our transgressions, and he was bruised for our iniquities."
I don't accept that happened.
He was crucified, historically proven. What are you talking about?
For our transgressions? There are a million stories in movies and literature about people getting hurt for other people.
But what you don't understand is that you're not even opening your mind to the possibility.
Well, no, you are assuming the validity of the story that you're trying to prove to us, and so you are
true.
How do you know it's true? If you would share this with us, what? If you would share this with us, then maybe it would be convincing. But all you're doing is pointing to aspects of the story that we're not finding convincing.
Well, I don't understand how you don't see how he fits the prophecy. If you read it and you know anything about Jesus, he's the only one in history that fulfilled this prophecy from Isaiah chapter 53, verse 1, all the way to verse 12.
I don't like to crib off other Atheist Experience hosts, but I do, on occasion, enjoy Matt's comment, which is, if I order a steak and the waiter brings it to me, did he fulfill my prophecy?
No, because that wasn't thousands of years ago.
Oh, what if I order a steak last year and it comes to me this year?
Actually, I think ordering a steak and it coming immediately is a better fulfillment of the prophecy. Because, I mean, that guy was at least timely. If all you're doing is saying there's going to be an earthquake, and then 1,000 years down the road there's an earthquake, that doesn't really count as me predicting that earthquake, right?
Well, I mean, that's fine. You have an opinion. You know, you have your own. You're entitled to your own opinion.
Does it? What do you think about Nostradamus?
Oh, Nostradamus?
Yeah.
He made predictions.
Yeah, and a lot of people said he specifically predicted 9/11, for example. He didn't, but a lot of people said he did, and retrofitted a lot of stuff in the actual story to match the things that they thought he was saying. Have you heard that one?
Yeah, but that is irrelevant to the scripture.
How about this for a different topic? The Bible promotes slavery. Are you pro-slavery?
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. Well, then you're not a very good Christian.
That's not true, because if you read Exodus chapter 21, the Hebrew word for slavery is abed, actually. And if you go back 4,000 years ago, every single nation had slaves. And
so that makes it okay. That's nice.
No,
that's nice.
I didn't say that it was okay. That's not what I'm saying.
It is what you said.
God said it was okay.
God said it was okay because he doesn't know better.
Do you know better than God?
Do I know better than God? No, I would never.
Then why is slavery wrong?
Why is slavery wrong?
Why didn't God know slavery was wrong?
God could have mentioned it. I mean, you know, he had a lot of really, really detailed things about, like, not eating milk and meat, or not bathing a calf in its mother's milk.
Thou shalt not roast a goat in its mother's milk.
That's the one. I think it was calf. But, I mean, he had a whole lot of specific things to say that may have been unpopular at the time. Did he just forget to bring up slavery, or what?
No, not at all. And, you know, I deal with this a lot, actually, with a lot of atheists. And, I mean, it's understandable. I understand why you could propose that objection against the Bible. But
it's pretty rational.
Regardless, there was slavery in that time. And God told Moses, this is how slavery is actually...
God was not one to buck social convention, is that it? God was afraid he'd get too many thumbs down on Twitter or something. Or no, Twitter doesn't have thumbs down, but too many angry faces on Facebook. That's what I meant.
So as long as you beat your slave and they survive a day or two, you're okay with that?
That's actually. Are you quoting from Exodus 21? And actually, that I mean, if you have to study it more, you can't just pick and choose that one verse, because I mean, what exactly you're referring to is in Exodus 21, talking about slavery, verses 1 through 2. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them that by Hebrew servant. 6 years shall he serve, and all that stuff. And it says, if a man smite thee, verse 26, if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. So
the part about striking him so hard that I mean, as long as he lives a day or two, there's no punishment at all. That's fine. Because there's other stuff in the Bible that says other things.
No, not at all. Because if he did that, it would be done back to him.
No.
The whole Mosaic law.
Not according to that part of the Bible.
Okay, I mean, but what I'm showing you is that, number one, you cannot compare slavery in the Bible to slavery that was in the world.
Oh, cool. Can I own slaves now then?
But you just said slavery was in every country. You compared it to the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah,
we win.
And freedom and liberty on certain days to do whatever they did. If they served their time, they would go out for free.
Oh, good. Can I own slaves now?
No, because
Why?
the old covenant, which is done away.
Jesus said that he didn't come to change the old covenant, he came to fulfill it.
Not one jot or tittle of the law.
Exactly, he came to fulfill it. That means it's been inaugurated.
So
I mean, you have to read Jeremiah 31, where the prophet said that he's going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah.
At what point did Jesus say that it's not okay to own slaves anymore?
At the point that he never owned a slave and none of his disciples did.
Okay, well, I mean, Jesus never got married either. Is it no longer okay to get married?
No, the Bible says to be married to a man.
And the Bible says to own slaves.
Jesus didn't have slaves, so based on your logic,
didn't comment on the slaves.
No man should ever marry a woman. That's your argument.
See, no, it's not my argument. What I'm trying to say, if you give me time to say it, is that what you don't understand is covenant in the Bible.
Okay, I guess I don't.
Yes, if you read the prophet Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31, he says that the covenant that I'm making with the house of Israel and Judah, which Christ fulfills, is the fulfillment. Jesus is the fulfillment of the old covenant. That means we no longer live according to the old covenant. We live according to the new covenant. That's why you don't see slavery in the New Testament.
Why can't I keep owning slaves, though? It didn't tell me not to.
Because it was fulfilled. Christ fulfilled the law.
So do the Ten Commandments still apply?
Yes, that's the moral law. Because
that was in the Old Testament.
Fulfilled. Yeah. I guess I can dishonor my father and mother now, because Jesus fulfilled the honoring of the father and mother, and so I get to do what I want.
No.
All right, we literally been in here over 3 hours. That feels good to me. I got a lot of painting done, listened to a lot of different lectures, and read a bunch of crazy ass comments from God, because he's trying to save everybody's soul except the white evil demons and devils. We got some work to do with you, bro. But yeah, this piece is starting to look really, really good, and I'm still having a lot of fun painting this thing. But I'm gonna get out of here for now. Oh man, that thing looks sharp. I'm good with them hands. Alright guys, once again, appreciate everybody coming in the studio, keeping us company, checking out the progress on the portraits, and kicking that knowledge. Peace. Till next time. That's what's up, Breezy. I'll let you, bro. Hey, don't forget to go to my Instagram. I got tons of more art up there.